Now we're getting back to the real meat. Okay, we've gotten our positive thing from this whole ordeal, from the whole BadEmpanada debate. Here we go. The promise of eating a taco.
On the platform, definitely here on Twitch, to have caught wind of this. So hopefully it's good content. Oh, I know all the
True.
Loner Box Raiders are gonna love this because I know Loner Box and BadEmpanada are great friends.
Oh my god. I mean,
All right.
who is a great friend of BadEmpanada? I would ask, I guess. I don't think I can name a person that's just a great friend of BadEmpanada, right? I don't think anyone likes him. Yeah, this would be in America. It needs to be in Warsaw, Poland. That's the trick.
Here we go. I'm live on my channel. I know BadEmpanada's live on his channel. Hey, are you there?
Yes.
Well, empanada? Who was empanada? I've met a few BadEmpanada fans. World Sandwiches, there's actually a true BadEmpanada fan that visits my YouTube chat from time to time to hate watch. So also it's empanada, it's not empanada, right?
Indeed.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, it's nice to talk with you. I've heard
Is it?
some about you over the years.
Okay, now I'm not sure on the pronunciation anymore. Okay. It would be nyada if the N would have this wave above it, right? I've got a bigger question, an entropy fan. Has anyone told BadEmpanada about the genocide that Argentina has done against black people? Has anyone told him about that? You know, the big genocide that Argentina just did and sort of, from what I've heard, bragged about? And just so you know, this is info that I've actually gotten from an Argentinian, you know, about how Argentina committed a genocide and just bragged about it and it got away with it. So I think that topic is a little bit of a bigger problem than just the Nazis is running away to Argentina, you know? In the genocide that happened there. I think that's a little bit of a bigger issue, you know? You're correct, original pronunciation. Yeah, and with the wave, you would like the I actually studied some. I've actually studied the. I've actually studied Spanish a bit. Maybe I should start learning Spanish again. It's a fun language, you know.
And
Plus, Spanish is, well, among other languages, is one of the languages of my new hero, Miguel Hidalgo.
interesting to finally get a chance to talk. We're
Chat.
I guess
Cool,
series
cool.
of events that brought us here, but here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah, it's okay. I have no idea who you are.
That's fine.
I'm just interested in using you as a proxy to make a video to talk about a topic so I don't have to make it on my main channel.
That's cool.
Okay,
I will say it's a bit
great.
weird you're not on your main channel because you had promoted.
I don't stream on my main channel.
Yeah, I get it, but you had told me that you have 10 times the viewers that I have. But
Yeah, you get like 1,000 views per video.
Well, because they're just live streams. And no, I don't. I
Okay.
get like, you could check out right now. It's like 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 views.
You stream on like Majority Report or something?
Oh wow.
No, I don't. I stream on my own channel. I got like
Who
29
cares about views? I swear. Is BadEmpanada making an argument that more views equals better things? I would not make that argument ever, you know? Popularity doesn't correspond necessarily to quality, you know? Such a jerk and none in the cool Vosh or Xander hallway, true.
9,000 subscribers,
BadEmpanada is not a cool jerk like Lucy is.
which obviously is much less than your main channel, but
Yeah.
you're
Well, I'm glad we've got an.
Oh, can I just say, there's nothing I hate more than like a dick measuring contest on the
True.
internet about who has a bigger audience. There's a
True.
million reasons why somebody might have a bigger audience than somebody else. Might be because you make much better content than the person. Might be because you're much smarter than the person. Could also be that you just talk about more popular topics.
You might
Somebody
just be-
could be extremely intelligent.
It might just be luckier. You might just have more luck. There are many factors. Oh, I am very nice. 0. Oh, okay.
They concentrate on the struggle of the people of Western Sahara, so they're playing to like an audience of like 2 people in the entire world. So even though they're extremely intelligent, they know what they're doing, they're highly produced good videos, if they're not talking about an issue that is like the most entertaining or like the most people care about, then it could mean that you're not doing as well. It could also be you not knowing your way around the YouTube search algorithm, you not making the best thumbnails. It could be you using keywords in your YouTube videos that make you get stunted in the YouTube
Right.
search algorithm. It might be that you're trying to transfer an audience from Twitter to YouTube, which is extremely difficult. It could be any number of factors.
Yeah,
Either
you're right,
way,
Dylan.
all of it's secondary to the actual conversation.
True.
But it does usually
pointless
mean that
to do the
tensions are
whole-
flaring, and we haven't even started yet.
Oh my god.
the
So
important- the
sad.
Important details out of the way
right.
there.
Well, you didn't know. You also didn't want to go on video, which was weird.
I'm on video on my channel.
on
I
your
just don't
end.
want to set it up.
All right. Also,
Oh, the tensions are flaring. By the way,
So sad.
I don't even really remember my quote unquote history with BadEmpanada. I remember
I remember my history with BadEmpanada. I remember my history with BadEmpanada. My god.
once he called me like a fascist because I
Yes.
have American flag in my background.
Yeah. He called you an imperialist or something in a video on his channel. His second channel, I think. Oh yeah, he's made a whole video about you. I remember now. Oh boy. Oh boy. This conversation makes BadEmpanada look so pathetic. Like more pathetic than usual. I saw the comments.
Because I'm American and I love my country, and his
Gosh.
argument is America's done all these bad things, so therefore for you to love your country and you to be a patriot, that makes you a fascist. And so I showed images of like others in the United States who
Oh
have flown
my
flags
God.
before, like Martin Luther King Jr. and others. Are these people fascists? And it basically rolled into a larger conversation that went nowhere. That's the only interaction that I vaguely remember about BadEmpanada. I knew that once we maybe were going to debate, but then it fell through because he didn't want to debate the specifics of what I was interested in debating. He wanted to debate something else. Nothing really worth mentioning. All I
Jesus.
know is that he does not like me very much. He does not like me very much.
He does
And
not
doesn't
like
that I don't
anyone.
concentrate on the issues that he wants me to concentrate on.
He does not like anyone,
I
don't
just want to
worry.
do a screen share really quick.
I also know that he's had problems with Loaderbox.
He's got problem with everyone. He's got problems with everyone. It would be easier for you to name someone he does not have a problem with. Oh my
Vosh,
gosh.
And just about everybody.
Yeah.
Problems with just about everybody.
Everybody, exactly.
I mean, do you usually
Ah,
show your
God.
the people that give you the time of day such wonderful respect as to not even
Ah.
put their name in the title or call them Discount Sam Cedar? Very weird.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Yeah. You don't matter, dude. I'm sorry. Your name doesn't bring in viewers.
All right, that's fine. But you know,
you
usually
can use a
it's-
derogatory name for me if you want.
Your
Jesus.
whole thing of not going live on video was you don't care about the whole YouTube debate viewer thing, and then you're telling me that you put
No, I don't go live
Discount
on video
Sam
'cause I just-
Cedar You put discount
My
Sam
stream
Cedar.
is
You put discount
well,
Sam
this is
Cedar for.
completely irrelevant.
all
My
right.
I wish the US was better. Well, you know, it's up to us to contribute to making it better, right? It's up to all of us to make places and spaces better, right? It's up to all of us to group together and help make places well better. That is my internal belief. Oh, and debate over. Pioneer just
stream is a thing that I do like 4 times a month
All right.
when I
discount.
want to make some extra money, right? It's
It's all
not
good.
something that's serious. So I never set
how
up
cute.
the video with guests because I have a guest once every 6 months.
How
That's cool.
cute.
Let's just do, all right, let's do this. I'm
Dude,
discount.
they do not like each other, man. The fact they've spent like 2.5 minutes on this. The fact they're spending 2.5 minutes on comparing view counts.
Sniping.
Why are you streaming on your second channel, not your main channel? Tell me about the cameras. Your title says I'm discount Sam Cedar. Why aren't you using my real name? Like they already do not like each other. The tensions are already flaring. This is not going to
Yeah.
be a cordial conversation.
Discount Sam Cedar. Cool. Let's do it. And you are.
I
oh,
never expect a cordial conversation with BadEmpanada, to be honest. I never do. So like whatever. I never do.
Bad.
I wonder if I'll be able to get a follow-up conversation with Dylan. I'd be talking with him on camera this time, not with the.
BadEmpanada. Cool. Okay.
Okay, that's N. Yeah, that's a different letter entirely. It's N. Empanada. Anyway, we can talk about the actual topic that we wanted to talk about.
So much for you can call me what you want. Temple. So yeah, so much for that, right? You can call me whatever you want.
Which is just interested in your perception of the whole Nazi Argentina thing.
Okay. We should pretty much let people know where this all started, right?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Sure. So,
Jesus.
I believe you posted a tweet
sure.
trying to explain the Mexican American who killed like 8 people in a mass.
It always starts with a tweet. It always starts with a tweet. Empanada. A combination of B original name and the word piñata.
Mass shooting covered in Nazi tattoos with like a History Channel article about Nazis in South America.
No, that's actually not exactly what it was, but yeah.
Okay, so I do know the general premise of the conversation. Okay, I'm tuned in.
Basically, it was the discourse
Nice.
around whether people with Latino or Hispanic names, because the right wing was
Okay.
pushing this whole idea that this Mexican American could not possibly be a Nazi because of their their name. They were really focusing on the fact that they
Just
were,
his name.
well, his name and also the color of his skin, his background being from, a Hispanic, family and having a Latino origin. They
Okay.
were basically saying there was an article from Axios, The Rise of White Nationalist Hispanics. And Mike Solana, who's this like right-wing VC, shared it and was sort of poo-pooing the idea that this could be a thing.
Oh my god, see, great minds think alike, Jazz. Great minds think alike. I should get a follow-up talk with Keffels, actually. This time on more friendly terms. I mean, it was friendly the first time, but it was born from a misunderstanding, so it was not exactly what it could be. You know what I mean? I'd love to have a friendly talk with Keffels. Maybe with my face on camera and stuff.
White nationalist
I'm ready
Hispanics, you know
to
what?
put myself out
So,
there.
as a play on
If anything, I would think in the age of the internet, I'm surprised that there aren't more people from minority communities in these extremist groups. I understand why there isn't basically any, like from a basic point of view, because these groups hate these groups hate them. Being a black person as a member of the Klan obviously doesn't make much sense. But
Right.
if you're extremely socially isolated, these extremist groups are going to make a beck and call to you, have an open arms to you. Definitely if they're desperate
Hello.
for membership or ears or anybody that'll listen to their cause. And so if you're socially isolated on the internet, which this person seemed to be, and you combine a few other factors to make them radicalized, it isn't insane to imagine that you can
Yeah.
have members of minority groups joining white nationalist, white supremacist organizations, or getting captured by.
I mean, anyone could be radicalized to doing dangerous and bad things, right? Like nobody's immune to radicalization. Nobody is. Nobody's immune to that stuff.
Their ideology, because I don't even know if he's part of any official organization. He's part of but he does have the ideological tint of fascism. So there's not even anybody at the door
no.
necessarily checking him into any organization. But that doesn't mean he can't buy into the tropes, buy into the narratives, whether they be anti-Semitic or otherwise.
Right.
Joke of, hey, open a history book. I literally found one of the first things on this was from a History Channel page, and so I made a joke about how you could even just look at it there, and the title of this article is "How South America Became a Nazi Haven," and it's basically a rundown of some very basic stuff.
Yeah, indeed. It's referring to a stereotype, like a very common stereotype that's used for two purposes. One is to legitimize American imperialism against like the center.
I mean, the fact that the Nazis run away to Argentina is just factual. It's not propaganda, it's just factual. So, in that sense, definitely Argentina became a haven for the Nazis.
Left in Argentina. And two is to deflect from America being itself a post-war Nazi haven.
No, I'm not doing that.
And that's why everyone got angry at you.
No, that's why strictly Argentinians got angry at me because
that's why they got angry at you.
Yes,
You know why?
yes,
because these people have never heard of this shit in their entire lives.
That's a problem. That's a problem. Then that's a real problem. That's a real problem.
What I'm saying is they haven't heard of your. It's not a problem. They haven't heard of your.
Wait, so they're complaining about an argument that Matt Bender never made? Matt Bender never said, oh, I didn't want to talk about Operation Paperclip. And so instead of talking about Operation Paperclip, instead, we're not going to talk about the recruiting of Nazi scientists, and we're going to talk about the Nazis in Latin America. He never made that argument. He never brought that up. He was simply showing that it is possible from somebody to be of South American descent and also be a Nazi. That was the only purpose he linked the article. So why do they have their panties in a twist? I don't understand where the outreach is. It seems like if Matt Bender said Operation Paperclip, what about Argentinian Nazis? What about Brazilian Nazis? What about Hitler's guys who fled to South America? Then it would be like, okay, that seems like a diversion, but that's not why he brought it up.
Perception of them, which come from a fucking musical.
No, I don't have any perception of them from a musical.
No,
I have a perception.
You do. You absolutely do. You're an American. You have cultural. Yes, your perceptions of things you don't know much about comes like everyone else comes through cultural osmosis. You don't really know much about certain things, and you have these sort of stereotypical ideas of what they're like.
You know nothing about me. Why?
I know about you're a generic American. You don't know how to pronounce empanada.
Okay.
That's about all I need to know.
Okay, so I missed.
The thing is about BadEmpanada, and some of it's coming back to me, is he makes very large assumptions based off of people's national identity or the very few facts you know about them. He'll assume what they believe. He'll assume what their backgrounds are. He'll make these assumptions and then make conclusions off them without checking with that person. A great example of this would be a while ago, he was saying that I was a foreign policy advisor for a state senator running for office, right? Now, that doesn't really make much sense, and he would even say this on Twitter. Why would somebody running for state senate even need a foreign policy advisor? If he would have two more digs into the ground, he would have found out that they were a state senator running for Congress. And that's the problem with BadEmpanada. It's very surface level of analysis. Definitely when he's talking about other people. In fact, I've never necessarily even seen him do that much when it comes to the actual politics of an issue. I've only ever seen that when he's making conclusions about those around him that he doesn't like very much. So I think a lot of it is very cynical, where he doesn't like this person. He thinks they're a scumbag because they politically disagree with him. And so he needs to find other ways to get at them. And so make jumps based off their national identity, jumps in logic, or leaps in faith in logic, in order to make conclusions about what they've been engaged in, what type of behavior they've engaged in, or what they're involved in. He makes assumptions a lot about people.
It's pronounced empanada. Like, give me a break, buddy.
Would you like me to provide you some academic articles about this exact stereotype and how it came to be? I can do it right now.
It's like basic history. Like, it's basic history.
It's basic history. What about is basic history?
What do you mean that there were? I mean, obviously
that there's Nazis in South America, and I assume that we are getting towards the idea that a lot of Nazi leadership did flee South America. That Nazi leadership did do that. I don't know the exact percentage of how much they went to South America, but that did happen. Didn't they catch like Joseph Mengele in Argentina? I'm pretty sure I saw a movie about that. Joseph Mengele was caught in Argentina.
obviously there are white supremacists and neo-Nazis and far right-wing extremists all over the world. All over the world.
It was in Brazil? Okay. Well, still South America. You get the idea.
Yeah, what does this American one have to do with Argentina, though?
Oh, I was bringing up the fact that, yeah, there is a such thing as white supremacist Latinos and Hispanics, because that was the premise of the article that I was replying to. That's it. Anything
it wouldn't really make
anything
much
more?
sense because
Why wouldn't it?
For one, Nazis who moved to, let's say, South America, they're not Latinos or Hispanics.
Sure, of course not.
Okay.
But you're acting like they didn't also decide.
Number one, many of them would still have would engage with local culture. Many of their descendants, just like many of the descendants from a lot of the Confederate settlements that were located in South America, would then intertwine with locals, and then they would maybe not be 100% Germanic, whatever, white anymore. But this is all secondary. This is all pointless to squabble over. None of this is the point that Matt Bitter was making. His only point is that South Americans can be Nazis. South Americans can be fascists. And the fact that this person is of South American descent does not undermine that fact. Whether you count them in the Nazis that fled from Germany, or some of those who are South American and have just harbored these personal fascistic beliefs. Like, that happens.
We're talking about
hold on.
We're talking about white people and brown people.
Hold on.
The guy who did this in the US was certainly not white or Aryan or whatever the fuck you want to call it, like the Nazis did. So
Dude.
Referring to that in the first place doesn't really make much sense, does it?
Well, no, it makes plenty of sense, because you're under the impression that, like, the neo-Nazis that, the Nazis that left Nazi Germany after the war or during the war and moved to South America, they didn't intertwine and mingle with the people there and have families of people there or share their ideology at the very least with people there. It's not like they just... What?
Did they share them with this guy?
Oh, Barry!
I didn't say this. It's not like they just... What?
Did they share them with this guy?
I didn't say this guy. Dude, you're bringing in something completely different because you seem to have misread.
It seems to me like you're bringing in something completely different and irrelevant to the question at hand.
The question at hand.
Well, Mexican mass
are there
shooter in the USA.
are there yes, and that's completely on the United States of America and its gun culture and its own neo-Nazi problem. But then there was a secondary discussion surrounding this whole thing about whether Latinos and Hispanic people can be white supremacist. And I was just bringing up
when Americans use the term Latino and Hispanics, etc., what they mean is brown people. They don't mean like blonde hair, blue-eyed neo-Nazis. They mean brown people.
I mean, Latinos, I don't think you need to necessarily be brown to be a Latino, but I would assume that like the majority of what is conceptualized as the Latino community is browner than, say, the average white American, or what the American perception.
Oh my god, I was muted. Oh, I've been talking and talking and talking, and I muted. Okay, I'm gonna write. My model is not moving because it's frozen today for some reason. My mouth should be moving. Okay, I was muted. One more time from the top. B doesn't really stop to discuss anything. Seems like he often offers chains of assertions and not much else. You're correct, and you should join the page. That is what I said. And also I read your question, Charlie. Is B saying Latinos can never be Nazis? Yes, that is exactly what he is saying. Because BadEmpanada is what we would call a racial essentialist. He essentializes certain traits of people of various races, for the lack of a better word, and he thinks if you're this, then you're probably like that. If you're like, yeah, that would be a form of like race essentialism, in my opinion. To say that this group can never be this or this group is always that, you know? Well, actually, BadEmpanada is weirdly defensive of Argentina. Even though Argentina actually did a form of a genocide against black people, you know, in Argentina, and bragged about it. As I know from my sources.
Percent of white is.
And I think you know that, or at least, subconsciously you should know that.
Subconsciously.
So wait,
It doesn't really make much sense to refer to South America. When they're saying that, they're not specifically referring to the fact that he's a Spanish speaker or whatever, or that his parents were from a Spanish-speaking country or from Latin America. They're referring to the guy's perceived race.
Right, and I'm telling you that they assumed that because he was, a brown person with a background, his family came from south of the American border, that he could not possibly be a white supremacist. So I was simply using a historical fact to show how there's actually a long history of, this ideology being welcomed or accepted throughout the world, period, but specifically in this conversation regarding the surrounding conversation around what we were just talking about in South America.
No group is immune to harmful ideologies. There is no group that is just immune automatically from birth against harmful ideologies. It is sad, but yeah, manifest destiny. Oh God, Charlie. We've been going through the history of Mexico. You might want to check out the last few streams that I've done. We've been going through the history of Mexico. Now that's And we went briefly through the Mexican US war. God, so much there. So much there.
Shiro, thank you so much for the tier 1 and being sub for 8 months. Thank you for all you do. Thank you so much. This is such a weird conversation. It feels
is
like
weird.
BadEmpanada doesn't have much to complain about, or he was ready for a totally different conversation. And Matt Bender isn't interested in having a conversation about like diverging or like not talking about Operation Paperclip. He simply was just trying to get across the point that people from South America can be fascists, that they can be Nazis.
He
and
doesn't.
just because they aren't of the demographic
He
background
doesn't.
of the typical Nazi doesn't mean they can't be one, or that ideology hasn't whittled its way into South America through other means. It just feels like I don't know, man. It feels like BadEmpanada is like grasping at straws already.
Gasping at straws.
At Dilbert TV, according to Paul Manning, eventually over 10,000 former German military made it to South America along escape routes of ODESSA and Deutsch. Brazil took in 1,500.
It's a historical fact. I'm sorry.
War criminals, while between 500 to 1,000 settled in Chile. However, by far the largest number, as many as 5,000, relocated to Argentina. I don't know about the specific numbers. I'll be gullible and accept your numbers at face value. But I mean, I'm not a big studier of German rat lines after the war, but I am pretty familiar with stories of Germans getting caught in South America for having been involved in the Holocaust.
Right.
I believe that you were actually referring to largely erroneous stereotype of Argentina
I
specifically.
never
not
said the
just
word
South America.
Argentina. I never said
We
the
all
word
know what you
Argentina.
mean. You're an American. We all know what the cultural perception
No,
is
actually,
as
when
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
you're an American. We all know what you really meant, Matt Bender. You were talking
True.
about them. Or as we all know who's truly behind the schemes, the Argentinians.
My god.
when I think of right-wing South American countries, the first country I think
right wing,
when
not Nazi, right wing.
when I think of far right-wing, white supremacist, neo-Nazi sort of subcultures going on in South America and spreading there, the first place I would think of actually.
Well, take BadEmpanada is Australian. But I am aware about Mexico's. When was that war, Charlie Price? Oh, Charlie Price is giving us some new context. When were those wars? Right now we're still on the Mexican Revolutionary War for Independence. Give me some dates. Give me some dates.
Simply because of modern times, is actually Brazil. But you know, you're welcome to assume I would think Argentina, I guess, for some reason. Again,
Oh, well, that doesn't really narrow it down between 1519 and 1933. Up till 1821, it was basically a colony of Spain, right? Zapatistas. Right now I'm reading about the pretty cool still reading about the pretty cool revolutionary leaders like the Miguel Hidalgo, who was apparently really pro-indigenous people. Or maybe you've got some sources that you can share, that you can go for on stream. See, it is good to have the Oh, Miguel Hidalgo was long dead by 1847. And Mexico was long destabilized by then. Okay, so from what you're telling me, it doesn't seem like the legacy of people like Miguel Hidalgo is tarnished, which is good. I can still like them, which is good. I can still like them. Nice. Nice. Okay. I can still like the Cry of Dolores.
I never say
Some
Argentina.
reason, for example, the very long-standing stereotype, specifically in American society.
Yeah, that did seem to be the case from what I'm reading. Many Mexican revolutionaries advocated for Native American rights. Yeah, that does seem to be the theme that I'm seeing. That during the that the Mexican revolutionaries were for racial equality, for indigenous people's rights, for for those sort of for abolishment of slavery, those sort of things, which is great in my opinion. If Mexico was supposed to be built on these foundations, that would have been great. That would have been pretty great.
He even brought up Argentina in this conversation. He didn't bring up Argentina once. Now he's whining about a country Matt Binder hasn't brought up. What's the purpose of this conversation? Is BadEmpanada does he just need to complain to people?
Society.
True.
But
That
dude, you're
Argentina
projecting all
is
sorts of things.
singularly unique. Yeah, you retweeted people saying this. You literally.
I'm thinking of Joseph Mengele. I think it was Adolf Eichmann, actually, who got captured in South America. I think it was Eichmann, not Mengele. Mengele was the experiment guy, but no, it was Eichmann that was caught in Brazil, I believe.
Retweeted people saying this as well.
I didn't retweet anyone saying anything.
Both? Oh, that's bad, man. That's bad rep for Brazil, man. Okay, so it wasn't... Okay, so Joseph...
Wait, that's not from me.
Mengele was caught in Brazil.
Wait, hold on.
Eichmann was caught... Okay, so it wasn't... Okay, so...
That's actually on... Oh my god, I thought that noise was on my side. That's on Dylan's. Oh god, Dylan, turn off your phone. Okay.
Man, that's bad rep for Brazil, man.
I thought this interruption thing was on my end.
Okay, so it wasn't... Okay, so Joseph Mengele was caught in Brazil. Adolf Eichmann was caught in Argentina. Either way, South America.
That's not me.
Yeah, it was Argentina. Okay, got you.
Responded to
not me.
were Argentinians who came at me to try to say that there's no such thing as racism in their country and the Nazis never went there, period.
True.
And only in my replies to them did I ever bring up the country Argentina, and you're welcome to look through that because it's all right there and all your viewers can. This whole conversation is about you, BadEmpanada.
And Mexico has not upheld its promises, and many, including the Zapatistas, are actively resisting the Mexican government. Look up the rebel Zapatista autonomous municipalities. I will. Well, you do need to keep in mind that after 1821, Mexico found itself in pretty unstable situation economically, and then it was just invaded by the U.S., right? The U.S. that first made Texas into an independent country through flooding it with illegal immigrants that were white and introducing slavery, and then basically invading and taking Texas as well as California, So I would say that Mexico was pretty screwed by the US. Yeah, but what is probably not a common pattern is being invaded and losing half of your territory to a neighbor that has to manifest the destiny. of whiteness and having a lot of terrain, you know?
Having a projection of something that didn't happen onto me. You
Ooh,
stereotyped.
projection.
I mean, that's what happened, buddy. I don't know what else to tell you. 'Cause
Projection.
whatever you're gonna bring up, whatever.
Mengele was not caught. He drowned in a lake on vacation. Man. So it is all the way back to Argentina and Adolf Eichmann being caught. Okay, so who was talking about Mengele getting caught in Brazil? I should never trust my chat. I'll never trust my chat.
Oh my
again.
gosh. Don't
When
trust
you
your
brought
chat.
up-
I
when you
trust
brought
my
up the
chat.
Russians in South America,
I have a
and you referred
dependent
to a History
historian in the
Channel
chat.
article,
I trust my
this is the
chat.
History Channel, by the way. The History Channel is notorious for like making documentaries where they claim to have found Adolf Hitler alive in Argentina. They've made like 4 of those. So
They do
My
make
gosh.
a lot of mockumentaries.
History
Mockumentaries.
Channel article specifically about Nazis, actual like post-war Nazis escaping to South America. And we all know that when you say that, you're mostly referring to Argentina because that's where the stereotype is. But
He could have just been referring.
Mm. I mean, the US did not exactly give any autonomy to the locals either, right? Like, the US basically just did slavery. The US explicitly made the country to be white, you know? So on that front, Mexico was far better than the US because the US explicitly set out to make the country white and Anglo-Saxon, you know? So by what you're saying, the US economy should have just plummeted and failed, you know?
Generally to South America. I mean, I guess Argentina would be under that umbrella, but he didn't work to like specify or single out Argentina. And I mean, is it not?
Yeah, but that would apply to the US as well, right?
Not true that Nazis fled to South America after the war? Is that, I mean, this is like I mean, again, I don't know the issue that deeply, but I know that they were caught there, and if they were caught there, it's not that hard to figure out that they fled there.
I wasn't
Would admit
referring
that or
to
not?
anywhere. I
So
wasn't
you want,
referring to
and then you
anywhere,
deflect
buddy.
that now by referring to Bolsonaro, a contemporary Trump-inspired leader.
Yeah,
Is that
because,
right?
Because my point. Like,
So you were citing a History Channel article to refer to Bolsonaro when the History
Again.
Channel article was talking about post-war
That's
Nazi
not what I said,
escapees.
dude. You
My
do you have
gosh.
a habit of talking in circles like this? Because it's not what I said at all. Number one, I said the use of the History Channel was part of the meme of open a history book. You could read it in my tweet. I even reference it. So that's why
So
I
it's just,
specifically
it's
used
just
the
a
History
joke.
Channel.
So you say open a history book and you use
Because
the
on Twitter,
History Channel.
everyone's snarky.
So you
just like you're
intentionally
snarky,
said
man.
something that you intentionally
True.
said something that is incorrect.
I think you're up to.
Yeah, what did he say that was incorrect?
Or in the right.
It doesn't
How
matter
did
if
you-
too
you're
bad
saying
Empanada
that there
was
were
correct and what's
no
not.
Nazis that left Germany and found a safe haven in South America.
That's
You're
not,
saying
that's not what you believe. That's not what you believe.
dude, I'm telling you what I believe right now, and you can't accept it because you had your little,
Mm-hmm.
your whole thing, your whole
Mm-hmm.
little
Simple
stream,
question for you, my
your
friend.
whole little stream
My
was
gosh.
set up to tackle me on something I never said because
Uh-huh.
you,
Uh-huh.
BadEmpanada, misread the entire tweet, and everyone in the replies when
Oh,
you came at me on
gosh.
Twitter were telling you, dude, you misread it. As long as half of Argentinian Twitter that was coming after me, everyone was telling you guys, I never said Argentina in any single tweet.
Oh my
you're
gosh.
replying. How is that a escape
Because
them,
you're an
dude.
American. You're
How
an
is that
American
Oh,
referring
God.
to a very specific U.S.
This is again. This is the problem with BadEmpanada. Is if he falls on every front, he'll just always fall back upon. You're a Yankee. You're this national identity. You're that national identity. Therefore, this is what you really meant because this is what Americans always mean. You dirty Yankoid. That's always where the BadEmpanada conversation goes
Pond
to.
1
If you
and
corner him
Gala
enough,
0.
or he runs out of things to say. If there's no more substantive critiques I can make out of the words that Matt Bender actually said, now I'm going to try to make an substantive critique of the words Matt Bender didn't say, but might have said in a different timeline, in a space-time continuum. It's, in an alternative, like, Mr. Cognito universe.
Oh, God.
By the way, it was constructed before the war was even over. Mythology used to legitimize imperialism, specifically this idea of South America being this sort of singular Nazi haven, which is why History Channel articles
No
like
way.
that.
I
No.
don't believe South America is ever. United States of America, baby, #1 in bringing Nazis from Nazi Germany. And not only were they the #1 in bringing them, #1 in turning a blind eye or helping other countries also do the same.
Oh, gosh.
The United States of America knew all about the rat lines. That's nothing new, man.
They didn't just know about them; they wanted
In
them.
certain, in some
Either way-
instances, they help set
Either
them
way,
up. No
so
doubt
you
about
have
it.
a bunch of people.
I have
you
a
bunch of
comment.
people angry at you for spreading.
I don't think so. American capitalism was able to develop organically and as a confluence of British mercantile policy, the development of sophisticated domestic market and industry, a bleeding slave economy, and an independent capitalist order led to America living in a better starting point than Mexico. It's okay.
Stereotype. This stereotype, by the way,
It's not a stereotype if it's okay. It's true that Nazis fled to South America after the war and they were caught there. And then their catching of them, like Adolf Eichmann, was highly publicized, with him being deported back to Israel. That's just true. I mean, you could say that maybe it's overemphasized or it's exaggerated, and that becomes a stereotype. That's fair enough. I'm sure Argentinians get annoyed at that image of themselves being portrayed, but that image exists for a reason. That happened. It's not like, like only a dozen went there. Thousands upon thousands of Nazis fled into South America.
Right,
and we're
yeah.
not just talking about like run-of-the-mill, a German officer here, a German officer there. We're talking high-ranking Nazis who were highly involved in the
Of course,
mass murder
they were
of
the ones that
Jews.
needed to flee the
Operation
most.
Paperclip doesn't change that. The Soviets hiring Nazi generals for the German Red Army to train them and get them ready, and them getting German scientists doesn't change that. Nobody taking German scientists, German military staff, having German generals being involved in their administrative rules or whatever, anywhere. None of that changes the fact that yes, Nazis did flee to South America. And all of this is besides the point that, again, he's arguing against the position that Matt Bender never even put forward. And
I'm not an expert in Latin America. Latin America has had a long history of fascism and Nazism. Look at Brazilian integralism. It was a popular movement. Well, I know that Argentina has done a genocide against its black population. I know that much about Argentina. BadEmpanada is really defensive about that.
he's assuming he put forward based upon the fact that he's American. That's it. It's just he's American, so you can't talk about South American Nazis. That's what this feels like.
True. It
specifically
is.
weaponized against center-left anti-neoliberal politicians in Argentina still
Dude,
today.
I can talk about
Why?
the
Why?
fact that-
I'm sorry if I'm going to hold my judgment back of Matt Bender bringing this up in order to undermine the center left in South America, that he was bringing up Nazis that fled to South America after World War II in order to undermine the South American left. Was it that, Or can we look at the context
Right.
of the conversation and see that he was countering a
Well,
claim? That
you know what my specialty is? My specialty is the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. But I did receive a challenge to do a research about the Mexico revolutionary heroes in, so I'm doing that, certainly. So I'm gonna do that.
somebody who is of South American descent cannot be a Nazi.
Why
Right.
can't they be angry about that exactly? Like,
I mean, if they want to be
when,
angry about that, that's a
like,
really
you
weird to me.
you said to
That's
me, I
really
believe
weird
that
to me.
it was wrong for me to say that this idea that you're spreading is imperialism. Apparently, how is that wrong for me to say that?
How is that imperialism for me to just simply state a historical fact?
Well,
that
for
there
one,
were-
God.
Okay.
for one, this idea of there being
Historical
a special
facts.
Nazi haven in Argentina comes from before the war ended. It comes directly from the U.S. government. They literally released a book all around the world warning of the threat of the Fourth Reich in Argentina called the Blue Book.
Right,
And from
right.
that,
Kisses and
that
cuddles,
spawned the
true.
musical Evita, which basically just spread that idea even more. And that's how Americans got this whole History Channel-esque idea of Argentina
most
being the
Americans
singular
have-
Nazi
Oh,
haven.
okay.
Most Americans.
And it's imperialism for Matt Binder to have said the thing he never said about Argentina, but by him bringing up the fact that Nazis did flee to South America. Didn't even say Argentina specifically. He's playing into the American conceived, created narrative about Nazis being in Argentina, the country he never mentioned. This is so... He's falling over himself to try to craft a narrative to trap Matt Binder in. It's just
True.
not working.
And this
have
is an
no
idea.
idea about any of this.
Unfortunate.
Most Americans, as you can see,
If you
from
ask
the
any American, what do you know about Argentina? There's like a 50-50 chance they'll tell you nothing or Nazis.
they'll tell
That's all they
you
know.
they'll tell you Messi, baby, and the Argentinian World Cup soccer team. What are you talking
This
about?
is the
man?
sort of thing that it's weaponized. It's very easy to weaponize. See, you think this idea is not weaponized? You think people don't say to like anyone who calls himself
My
I'll
God.
tell
communist,
you,
"Oh, you're a Nazi."
The most I've heard about Argentina, quite frankly, has been from other South Americans who have had bad experiences with Argentina.
Mhm.
That's honestly the most I hear about Argentina. United States of
My
America
God.
doesn't know Argentina.
Be careful.
Outside again of their World Cup soccer team. Trust me, no one here talks about.
Be careful. You might anger the Empanada. Careful. Careful, person. God, this level is... The orc campaign is more difficult than a human one.
Evita or any of that.
There's certainly more than enough cultural osmosis for Americans to know about this Nazi Argentina stereotype, which is probably why all of your followers, just with that taken for granted ideas that they receive from this cultural osmosis, got very angry at me, refuting that idea.
But dude, are you claiming that you can't talk about the fact that there were indeed Nazis that escaped
Okay.
to Argentina? Is that what you're claiming?
Let me give you a very apt analogy here. Let's imagine an African American politician in the USA is corrupt.
Sure.
Do you think and someone's like, Africans can't be corrupt, that doesn't make any sense. And you decide to respond to that by posting like the Freedom Institute's graph of corruption with African countries at the top. Do you think that would be like a thing to do that makes any sense at all and that isn't just reinforcing damaging stereotypes about other countries?
But that's not what happened at all. Let's pose this another way. Do you talk about Ukraine at all?
Yeah.
You do. And what do you think about what's going on with the Ukraine?
no.
With Ukraine?
Literally a complete 100% topic change.
Well, no, because I'm.
He's talking about Argentina, a
Uh.
country Matt Binder never even brought up. This is the topic change. Okay, whatever.
No, it's not, because it's the same thing you just did. You just brought up African American president.
No, I'm making
What are you talking about?
an analogy.
And I'm making an analogy
to what you did.
I'm making an analogy.
Right.
I'm making an
What
analogy.
you
Oh
did-
my.
You talk about Ukraine,
is
right?
take-
Bad
Well, you just
Empanada.
take someone who is a Latin American, completely irrelevant European or Africa or anything here.
Can't talk about Ukraine. He can talk about this like scenario of the idea of somebody saying black people can't be corrupt, totally not a topic change. Him
True.
bringing it over on the Nazi issue, on the stereotype about Nazis
Copyrighted
over the
question.
Ukraine, very
True.
easy to see where this connection is going to be made. That's not allowed though. That's too much of a topic change. He's got to shut it down. He just got to shut it down.
True.
You could
Shut
take
it.
someone who is a Latin American descended person in the US who did something awful, and to explain
No, you
that the
keep going
fact
back
that
to that.
a Latin
You keep
American
going back to
person
that.
can have his ideology, you point to the people in South America.
I
I'm wondering how
pointed
this would be
to-
different
I
to that
pointed
scenario that
to-
I just outlined.
No, because that's not what it was, man. The individual is
Oh my
completely
God.
like, maybe I don't know, maybe because you're not, you're from Australia, right? Maybe
Africans can be corrupt, right? It's okay.
Wouldn't
Damn.
the example? By the way, as far as I know,
What a
Matt Binder never-
snipe at BadEmpanada's Australian roots. What a snipe. This is not good. Abort. 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 What is the point of this BS? Our entertainment. The point is our entertainment.
said South America was the #1 protector of Nazis after the war. He was just showing that they existed, that it happened. But I think the better example would be somebody claims black people can't be corrupt after a corruption scandal with a black person, and somebody's like, here's a history of corruption in Africa. That would be, in my mind, that would be the comparison here, where it's like, no, it is possible. See, it is possible. Here's
Oh
maybe
my
a list of
God.
examples of it happening. That would be the comparison. Not
BadEmpanada.
black people are the most corrupt in Africa, is the most corrupt continent on the planet. It would be, well, no, black people can't be corrupt. Here's a history of black people being corrupt, or people from
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, Jess has a point. Jess has a point. Yeah. Yeah.
this country, said country being corrupt. Like, you could
Took
do
my
that. That would be the
for
comparison. Not it is the most corrupt continent, and Africans are just more corrupt than everyone else. No, you would just show examples of it happening, which that's what his purpose for linking the History Channel article was, to show that there is a history of Nazism and white supremacy in South America.
It's okay for me to refer to the corrupt Africa stereotype.
What are you talking about, man? No, the difference. No, the equivalent
My God.
would be if there was some sort of African mass shooter here who was driven by white supremacy or neo-Nazi ideology, and then me pointing to, there is a history in Africa of this. Just look at South Africa. It's the same fucking thing. That's the analogy.
Well,
man.
actually, the sensical analogy, if you want it to be like that,
Oh my
would
gosh.
be an African-American neo-Nazi doing a mass shooting and then being like,
I swear, B is like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. No, I disagree. I disagree that his videos are Dr. Jekyll. I disagree. I stand by what I say, that his Dr. Jekyll Holodomor Wikipedia video is dishonest enough to make a Mr. Hyde on that as well. Yeah, I don't agree that his video are Dr. Jekyll.
this is somehow due to like this fringe neo-Nazi group in South Africa or something, which would make no sense because it's a fucking African American in the USA who's probably never even been to Africa in his life.
All right, but we are talking about a secondary thing here, and let me get back to my analogy, because you keep going back to the shooter, and that's not what this discussion turned into. Yes, that was the catalyst for this whole conversation that came here in the United States. But
I mean, I guess Manifest Destiny does have a clear connection with Nazism. You can say that, but his Holodomor video, no, definitely not a Dr. Jekyll. Definitely not. Definitely not. In fact, you joined the stream when we went over it, That video was definitely not. That video was definitely not a Dr. Jekyll. I don't know why people, I don't know why ML adjacent people feel the need to talk on Holodomor. I don't know why people decide that they need to insert themselves into the Great Hunger discussion. I just don't know why. Makes no sense to me. But you know.
The main topic of conversation. By the time I got to it with that reference to that article.
By the way, I'm gonna post something in the chat for you, Charlie. I've got a special book that I wanna. Oh no, I'm gonna DM it to you. I'm not gonna clog the chat. I'm gonna DM it to you. Yeah, I'm gonna DM it to you. Don't know. You might not know it because it's a very Polish/Ukrainian source. I'm gonna DM you. You're the pond historian. You are the pond historian, so you need to be up to date with all of the pond historical things. That I have at the pond disposal. We have to know what resources we've got when it comes to our history, okay? We need to know. Yeah, I was sent this by the... well, technically my father was sent this by the Polish National Institute because for some reason the institute keeps sending new books to my father post-mortem, and I think they will do it forever, which means that I just keep getting new history books all the time in regular packages. So that's a bit of a trivia that my history well, my father was not exactly a professor, but he was a bit of a public figure, so it's understandable that he was getting those. He was involved with the institute and stuff like that. But yeah, it's really nice because it means that my collection is all ever growing, but oh god, oh, I made a mistake. But it also means that unfortunately it also means you cannot build oh gosh. It also means that I keep getting new books and there's only so much time to read them all, you know? That's a big problem.
Can Latinos and Hispanics be white supremacists or neo-Nazis? But anyway, so you talk about Ukraine, right? And you talk about
we're not talking about Ukraine.
But you talk about Ukrainian, but we weren't talking about African American presidents.
You think I don't know how this works? It's like, buddy, you love Putin. I know exactly how this works. Putin,
no, I don't think you love Putin. I don't think you love Putin.
He doesn't even know. Wait,
what
does he
the
actually
hell?
not see the connection? Does he not see the connection here? Or he's going to talk about a country being stereotyped as a Nazi country, and he can't see the connection here with Ukraine. He just... Okay, so he's stopping him from doing this analogy. He actually doesn't know what the analogy is going to be about.
I think BadEmpanada is stopping him because BadEmpanada does the stereotyping of Ukraine as a Nazi country. That is the real reason why BadEmpanada is stopping him. BadEmpanada calls everybody a Nazi, Dylan. BadEmpanada calls our mutual friend Anastasia a Nazi. You know? Yeah, professors. My grandfather was a professor.
You
Don't
talk
really
about
care
Ukrainian. You
about
talk about
Ukraine right
Ukrainian
now.
neo-Nazis, right? You talk about Ukrainian neo-Nazis, right? I talk
Yeah.
about them too, right? They exist, right? If
I absolutely would not just randomly refer to like Ukrainian neo-Nazis in a
Is
context
that
that's
so?
completely removed from them for no reason whatsoever. No.
if someone of Eastern European background committed a mass shooting here, and they had some sort of background
Everyone
that
is a
brought you
Nazi.
back there,
True.
you would bring up. And in America, people liberals started to say, oh, they can't be neo-Nazis. Ukraine is all about no neo-Nazis there. That's Russian imperialist propaganda. You would no doubt about it, and so would I say that's bullshit. You could see that there's a history of Ukrainian Nazis.
There's a bit of an issue here, right?
What's the
We're
issue?
talking about Ukrainians.
I do have to just put out there that there is a much bigger, while that is true, there is a much bigger history of Ukrainians dying to defeat Nazism. 2.5 million were casualties of the Soviet Red Army in the quest and the fight against the Nazi invasion of Ukraine and the rest of the Soviet Union.
And then we're talking about Ukraine. In this other case, we're talking about a Mexican, and then we're talking about South America.
No, because
And
there
we're
was
also
a whole
talking about 80 years
conversation.
ago.
There was a whole conversation about Latinos and Hispanics all together. That was a
Well,
conversation.
that's an American idea, which makes
Yeah,
it
and that's
completely
what I was,
nonsensical.
and that's what I'm talking about, man. Maybe that's where there's some sort of misunderstanding or language barrier.
The misunderstanding, there's no misunderstanding. Like, you
Language
are referring to
barrier.
a stereotype that is used constantly to
It's
legitimize
not a
imperialism against
stereotype, man.
Argentina.
And
It
when
absolutely
you-
is a stereotype.
It's not a stereotype. It's a
You're telling-
historical
you're-
fact, dude.
it's
It
not-
happened.
okay.
Matt Bender, like in a few more posts, he was going to say, you know what? That country I never mentioned in any of my posts, Argentina, we need to invade to depose.
Two things can be true at the same time. Ukrainians, Latinos can be Nazis. Spoiler alert. Anyone can be a Nazi. You know? There existed Jewish Nazi collaborators. Nobody is immune to a horrible ideology. Nobody. No one. Okay? No one has racial traits that gives you immunity to certain ideologies.
It's Nazi government.
You're okay. It's a historical
now,
fact
man.
then when all of your followers respond to me being like, all Argentines have German surnames. Like, why is your father a Nazi? Things like that.
My
It's not
gosh.
stereotype.
Dude, he's now just complaining about his Twitter follower. I'm sorry, man. This is just silly.
200 Nazi war criminals in Argentina. That is not a stereotype. It's actually true. Like, you're not going to convince me that these people know anything about what they're talking about. That they're basing any of this on historical facts.
I never threw down any number or
Okay,
anything.
we're gonna take a look at the wiki. Well, yeah. Keep in mind that there is also the whole cooperation with certain Zionist groups with the Nazis and so forth. It's a pretty complicated topic. It becomes a pretty complicated topic. I see we're watching this debate. Yeah, we are. Watching the best debate. The best debate in the world. Hello, Maya Major. We are watching this debate indeed. Unless President Sunday is gonna hop in here and debate me.
Obviously a stereotype. Like, I have fucking academic articles right here, fucking ready to go, fucking fully torqued. They've got fucking
Fully
massive hard-ons
torqued.
here, ready to go, about this stereotype, specifically
I mean,
in the US and how it came to be.
So
It's
maybe you
clearly a
should've
real
found
thing that
someone-
exists, or there wouldn't be articles about it.
Okay, and the fact that Nazis went to Germany also is, I mean, Nazis
Oh,
from
damn.
Germany went to Argentina and other South American countries obviously happened too. Otherwise, there wouldn't be articles about it. I mean, what are you talking about?
We're not specifically talking about did Nazis go to Argentina or did they go anywhere
I
else.
feel like if we're talking about the stereotype of Nazis going to Argentina, we're talking about the stereotype. The fact of whether Nazis did or did not go to Argentina would probably be a large part in coming to that conclusion, whether it's a stereotype or not. No,
True.
if it isn't true, but people believe it, then that would be a stereotype.
So we're talking about a specific stereotype, the one that your History Channel article specifically referenced.
For the record, they did go to Argentina.
They did, yeah.
Even if I think like the idea that like, of course, are Argentinians today descend from Nazis, anything like that, of course, ridiculous. But also, I don't want to underplay the fact that yes, Nazis did go to Argentina and hide there, like Adolf Eichmann.
I
Yeah.
didn't even link to any fucking article, man. I didn't link to any article. I used the
posted
fucking
a screenshot of an article.
Yeah, because the whole point was just to point out that yeah, there's a history of Nazis and white supremacy in South America and Latin America. You
The
wanted
history
to.
of
You were
Nazis and
so.
white
You were
supremacy in the
foaming
US.
at the mouth for some content that you saw somebody post that.
I
and
am not
read
foaming at the mouth
100
for
and
content.
read
Oh
100
my
pages
gosh.
into it. What are you talking about? You're the
Right,
one sitting
Charlie.
there prepared apparently dozens of academic articles, and I just threw
I
up the stream
prepared-
right now. I
Yeah,
just
right,
threw up the
'cause
stream
I-
right now.
If you don't like, yeah, like I don't know why you are like bragging about not knowing what you're talking about. That's not a good thing.
I never said
But
I don't know what to
I've-
talk about. I said I didn't need to prepare
haven't
for this.
prepared anything. This is like kind of a thing that
True,
people do
Jess.
and not,
You
like,
just
True.
have
Consider
academic
acolytes.
articles ready to go
They know things.
24/7.
Yeah.
I like Empanada's defense now. Look, I have a bunch of links to articles. I mean, it
True.
doesn't matter if the conversation I thought I was going to have with you, we were having, because I assumed a bunch of things about what you believe. But now these things that are now useless to me, because the conversation I was projecting onto you is not happening.
Oh, well.
I'm prepared now. So now it needs to create something out of it. So now it needs to.
I mean, it is what it is, right? At least he read some stuff. That's good, right? That's a positive. Like, I can make an announcement now. Now that Charlie is done with her thing, we can just jump into it and make a really nice pre-prepared history video for you all, you know? As a big cooperation thing. It's gonna be awesome. I also have to finish the video essay about gender affirming care that I started recording. I'm sorry for the stunlock. Let's continue. Let's return to what's really important. Let's return to BadEmpanada. He might get angry at me and make another video about me. Oh, he's used kiwi farms to hate on Keffels. Well, that's pretty low. What do you expect of BadEmpanada? I actually only expect the lowest of BadEmpanada. That's like no surprise there. No surprise there.
The point. Well, I was
Not at
prepared
all.
and you weren't. Well, yeah, if I went into a conversation to talk about a thing I never said, it'd be kind of hard for me to have sources on the thing I never said.
True.
Yeah, yeah.
You just have academic
I've
articles
researched these
ready to
things
go
before.
24/7. All right, that's
I've-
cool. Good. Let's bring them up then.
I read
bring them out.
things.
Bring them out.
I
things
read
too, man. I read things too.
So
Ah, God.
you're trying to tell me it's not a stereotype? Like this idea of like Nazi Argentina. This is
I
not a
love
stereotype.
it. I love this
Fucking
convo.
Peasants podcast, Billy the Fridge was talking about you boxing people in Creator Clash, like who you might fight if you did Creator Clash. Oh, I don't know who I'd fight. It'd be interesting because people are gonna go infrared. Jackson,
Yeah.
of course, like that'd be fun and everything. But I don't think either of them would ever agree to something like that. They've memed about it enough to I think show that they like the idea of that type of a blow if they would actually lose is too big for their ego for them to ever agree to something like that. But if we could find something that would make it fun, I would be open to trying something like that. Obviously, in the immediate future, it's kind of hard for me to agree to anything considering what I'm doing in Ukraine. But who knows? You know, training to box in Ukraine, if there's ever a country that can get your boxing smarts in line just spiritually, it is Ukraine, man. This is a country of boxers, man. Usyk, Lomachenko, even though a lot of people don't like Lomachenko, the Klitschko brothers. I mean, this is a boxer's country, man.
My
In
gosh.
the American psyche, it's not a thing. Is that like a correct assessment of what you're telling me?
Well, there's a history of, of obviously American propaganda for all sorts of different countries, and for Argentina, one of them is the United States of America pushed. That it was a Nazi haven, sure, because there is some truth into propaganda at times, absolutely.
So they pushed it because there's some truth in the propaganda, right? There's also some truth in the fact that African governments tend to be corrupt.
Oh, without a doubt, they are corrupt.
That randomly for no
no
reason.
They're, of course,
in a very clearly problematic context that legitimizes imperialism.
No, how does it legitimize imperialism to bring up historical fact? I don't understand. I don't understand how.
How does it legitimize imperialism? How does it legitimize imperialism for me to say, okay, so Peron invited like 200 Nazis into Argentina.
Just 200?
Peron was a Nazi. Yes, 200. Ergo, Peron was a Nazi.
Oh, he had
people who call themselves Peronists are also Nazis. Ergo, the primary center-left force in Argentina are Nazis, and we should all hate them. That's how this logic works. It's how it's employed. It's
Matt Binder didn't bring up Perón, which I think it's spelled P-E-R-U-N. I forget exactly the name, but he was like an old leader of Argentina. Whether or not he kicked those people out doesn't even necessarily make him a Nazi. Maybe he collaborated with Nazis fleeing. I would have to go back and do the research. But everything that's being said right now, none of it was stated by Matt Binder. The idea that Matt Binder posting an article in response to somebody saying South American Nazis, never heard of such a thing. And he posts an article saying, yeah, no, they exist. That him posting that article was him implying the stereotype, what is being alleged to be the stereotype of Argentinian Nazis, therefore extending to Matt Binder reinforcing beliefs about wanting to do regime change in Argentina.
My God.
This administration that has been gone for like 60, 70, 80 years now of Perón and him possibly collaborating with Nazis fleeing. None of this was said by Matt Binder. It's all just things that like BadEmpanada built up in his mind about things that, Matt Binder believes based upon very little information. And so now he was ready for a conversation with somebody who isn't even real, because his image of Matt Binder in his head and what he believes about this, he just completely just built up in his head. They're ready for two totally different conversations.
It's very common. You've never heard of this before?
No, of course I have, but the idea, what makes you think that the guy who helped bring in Nazis from Germany after World War II didn't have Nazi sympathies and feel for these people?
Do you think that like the people in, let's say, hypothetically, because Perón was a very FDR-like leader. Obviously, FDR died before the war was over, but what happened in the US would happen if he was still the president afterwards.
Sure.
Let's say, hypothetically, FDR had survived the war. He was the one who happened to be in power when the US invited all the Nazis. Would that make him a Nazi?
Yeah, I would say if he brought in Nazis, it would have been really bad for him. Yeah, I think
it doesn't make him a Nazi. I do think that is reductionist, but I also don't think that that Perón bringing in Nazis necessarily means that he should be like, oh, we need to wipe that crime away. We need to wipe away the fact that some of the worst Nazis who were involved in extermination were accepted into his country. Like, oh, we just ignored that. Like, it's one thing to say, well, we don't know that he was a Nazi. We don't know that we're pretty confident that FDR isn't a Nazi. He fought a war against the Nazis. Perón never fought a war against the Nazis, by the way. But that doesn't mean we ignore this or we pretend this thing didn't happen or it didn't lead to his country, Argentina, being a hotbed for some of the worst Nazis after the war. The worst Nazis involved deeply in the extermination of Jews.
Right.
I think we could
ideologically,
he was
oh my God.
Between it being bad and it being like ideologically Nazi.
Oh yeah.
Because the thing is, when we're talking about like
what is
a politician
the thing?
and their ideology, especially a politician like FDR or Juan Domingo Perón, people who are in power for quite a long time. I think FDR was like 12 years, Perón like 9 years, at least the first term. You can look at what they actually did. You don't specifically need to infer things from, like their sympathies or whatever. So you can look at what they actually did and judge off their policies, their politics as implemented in practice, given the fact they were actually in, heads of state. You can look at that and you can judge whether you're Nazi or not. So given, Peron was very much in his economic policy, pretty much like FDR, social policy like any other, white guy in power
Dude,
at the time.
Perón was
Just
not.
like FDR.
You're trying to push forward that Perón was some sort of progressive hero. Is that really what you're trying to do?
Okay, can you explain, like, with some sort of reference to something that he actually did? Like, what do you mean by progressive hero? Was FDR a progressive hero?
Well, I would say for some people he is, and some people he isn't. I mean, he did
Economically,
he
sure.
was.
Okay, so I'm just doing a basic Google search on this because I'm
Oh
going to be
my
honest.
gosh.
South American politics is not my forte.
Special.
Is not my
True.
area of expertise.
Same.
Let me just read you just like the first few paragraphs off of the evil Western dog Wikipedia.
Same.
After World War II,
Western dog.
Argentina became a haven for Nazi war criminals, with explicit protection from Perón, who even shortly before his death commented on the Nuremberg trials. In Nuremberg, at the time, something was taking place that I personally just considered a disgrace. And
Oh,
an unfortunate
no.
lesson for the future of humanity. I became certain that the Argentine people also considered the Nuremberg process a disgrace, unworthy of the victors, who behaved as if they hadn't been victorious. Now we realize that the Allies deserved to lose the war.
Oh my
Compare
god.
that to FDR, who actively pursued making the Nazis and the Japanese lose the war. I do think, there's a bit of a difference between FDR and this guy.
That's not good.
Just a bit of a difference.
Oh,
We can go a little bit deeper in here, but there's a big section of
damn.
what looks like
Okay. No.
One
Not
second.
good.
I'm trying to look at these photographs. Yeah, that looks like Nazi in exile, Nazi in exile, Nazi in exile. Yeah, no, they took a decent amount of Nazis. From the Reich. Yeah, no, this is not. I mean, I guess you could say maybe it's sometimes exaggerated. I would have to check more popular media portrayals of Argentina, but yeah, no, this is a historical fact. This is something that happened.
Yeah.
Adolf Eichmann's probably one of the most notorious examples of this. Oh my goodness,
No.
it wasn't even the Nazis. Many members of the notorious Croatian Ustaše, which is a very fascist organization, took refuge, fought with Hitler, took refuge in Argentina, as
What a
did
surprise.
Milan Stradojkovic, a former
Shocking.
Serbian prime minister of monarchist Yugoslavia. In 1964, anyway, we get the idea. Let's continue.
All right.
Yeah,
Compared to
man.
what there was before.
Sure.
So, how is it
He
wrong?
also-
Is
he
Peron
also-
was not economically progressive compared to what there was before?
Well, sure, yeah, but just because you're economically progressive doesn't mean you're just you're just
Exactly.
a
FDR was
progressive
also a
hero, right?
racist.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
so, like,
So
do you
what?
think?
What are you trying to say? See,
I'm
I don't. I
trying to
think,
say.
like, I think you think I'm somebody else. That's the problem here, because I got no problem
I
saying
think
that FDR
that you.
was without a doubt a racist. FDR was without a doubt very had.
Yes, the point is that I'm not trying to delegitimize FDR here. I'm not trying to attack FDR. I'm drawing a comparison between him and Juan Domingo Perón, who are very similar in terms of their.
What a discussion.
Okay,
What a debate.
so
This
are you trying to
debate
say-
is
are you
much
trying to say
more.
that I'm
This debate is much more impotent than I expected. Which is because, I mean, I guess Dylan just made a correct diagnosis. BadEmpanada expected something else because he misread a tweet, and now it's just whatever. Well, that's because it's just this is getting a bit boring, quite frankly.
What I'm trying to say is that
Sure.
this guy, due to his
This guy.
sort of anti-American, anti-imperialist stance, and the fact that he was the first politician to ever draw his base from the working class and take some sort of action against the landowning Spanish oligarchy, the fact that he also, after that, took in a few hundred Nazi war criminals, most of whom he had no knowledge of. Most of what he
there were a
took
lot
was, for
more than a
example,
few
similar to paper
hundred.
clip.
And what was his beliefs about the Nuremberg trial? Maybe I'm misinformed. Maybe right before he died, he released a final statement where he was like, actually, the Allies should have won. And
True.
all those people did deserve to hang. Maybe he did like a
True.
last-minute reversal, but I highly doubt it.
In terms of
Reverse
war criminals,
Uno
there's
card.
180.
That was based on a what was like an Argentinian council.
It was based on. It was based on a 2003 was the last revised report. 2003, essentially a convention of historians from Germany, Argentina, the US, pretty much everywhere, who made a list of 180 confirmed Nazi war criminals who entered Argentina in various capacities.
Okay, so we're just talking about, when we talk about war criminals, do we mean people who are convicted and their search warrants out for war crimes?
True.
Are we talking about just Nazis in general? Because I would assume there were Nazis who did commit war crimes, but there's not warrants out for them. I would assume there was also the families of Nazis and just regular Nazis who fled with their other Nazi staff out of the country. Like what? We're just saying convicted war criminals then. People who, like there's warrants out currently for the arrest of.
Most of them were actually Croatian, not German.
Sure.
Ustase.
Okay.
So-
Nazis nonetheless, though. I don't really care
And then
whether
there
they're
were-
from Germany or not.
Yes. And
Oh
then
my
there were also
gosh.
Scientists, whatever.
Right. Just like the U.S. Right.
Just war criminals? Got you. Okay.
This was a transnational network. Pretty much every single country that had aspirations to be something after the war did this.
Oh,
including the
I get it.
Soviet Union.
You're separate. You're saying specifically 100. What did you say? 158 war criminals. So the other thousands of Nazis that
180.
came in, 180 war criminals. The other
Well,
Nazis
there were about
that came in are not.
20,000 Germans post-war who settled in Argentina, and about 80,000 more who passed through the country to a different final destination.
Okay. I
Compared
saw.
to the U.S., that is quite
I saw
minor
that.
amount.
I saw that an Argentinian.
Minor amount in total number or minor amount per capita? Because America is substantially larger than Argentina.
True.
Researcher recently, I think in the past 3 years, 3 years ago I think it was, discovered a list of 12,000.
I'm so happy that
I
you
know, I'm
mentioned
glad
that.
you-
So that's
I knew
a pre-war
I know.
list. That's a pre-war list from the 1930s. The reason that we have that list was actually seized by the government when they raided a Nazi Party of Germany. What do you call them in English?
So, so let me just get this. Let me just get. Okay, so continue. Go ahead. Finish what you're saying. I don't want to interrupt.
So
Oh my gosh.
is of Nazi Party of Germany members from the pre-war German migrant community in Argentina. Right? It's not Nazis from Germany who escaped. And the reason that we have that list is because the government at the time raided their offices and seized it.
Okay, so so you're saying to me that there weren't that many Nazis in Germany because the Nazis
Germany?
excuse me, I'm sorry, I misspoke. Thank you for pointing it out. That there weren't that many Nazis in Argentina because they got there before the war ended.
What I'm saying is that's irrelevant to what we're talking about, which is
Oh.
Nazi.
No,
Nazi escape.
what we're talking
What
about.
cope?
No, we're talking about
What you're
Nazis.
talking about
We're
is the
talking
pre-war
about
German
Nazis.
migrant community.
We're talking about
You're
Nazis.
talking about something completely different.
I love how none of this is even connected
Oh.
anymore to the
True.
original point which Matt made, which is already
Oh
been-
my
was
God,
conceded at the
such
first moment of this
dishonesty.
debate, is that yes, there are Nazis
Delicious.
and white nationalists in South America. They do exist, and being South American does not automatically make you not a Nazi. And the screenshot that Matt
BadEmpanada is saying that the Nazis that came into Argentina before the war ended don't count because of reasons. Because of reasons.
of the History Channel article, which he
Oh my
posted to show that
God.
they do exist. He was not using
This is
it
great.
to make any statement about Argentina, and he certainly wasn't using it to make any statement about Argentina's leader from World War II era, Perón, who helped harbor Nazis and Ustase in his country, and did not have the most favorable view of the Allies and or of the Nuremberg trials. So I don't think Matt Bender wanted to talk about any of these things when he
True.
posted that image. I don't think he was.
But
implying anything about
BadEmpanada did.
Perón. I don't think he was implying anything about Argentina. He didn't mention Argentina.
BadEmpanada
People got
wanted to
angry at
talk
him.
about
They
it.
were responding to him about Argentina. It really just feels like
Actual
BadEmpanada
nonsense.
wanted an outlet to talk about this. He even said it at the start of this, and I think that kind of gave the whole game away. What he said at the start. What he said at the start of this was that he's using Matt Bender as a catalyst to talk about something else. So Matt,
True.
who didn't want to even talk about this other thing, who never brought up this other thing, never talked about Peron, didn't even mention Argentina, is now by force trying to be turned into a catalyst for him
Well, I guess you're gonna have to find a different catalyst then, won't you, BadEmpanada?
to make a separate
You're
YouTube
gonna
video
have to.
about something that Matt Bender never even mentioned. And so now they, by force at this point, has dragged the conversation all the way over to an area
My
that
guy.
Matt Bender is not an expert in, nor has Matt Bender even ever mentioned in any of the threads talking about this topic. So now we're at this area that's completely separate from the original
God.
topic because BadEmpanada wanted to talk about something completely different, but needed to use this to hook in Matt to talk about this topic that I doubt he even frankly cares about that much.
I want to talk about like pre-war Nazi German migrant communities. Every single country had those. The U.S. had the biggest. The U.S. had
Right.
a rally of 30,000 Nazis.
Yeah, I
in
know. We had it
Madison
right at
Square
Madison Square Garden. I'm in New York City,
1939.
baby. I know.
Hey, that was pre-war. That was pre-war. He's talking about the German-American Bund. And wait, so the pre-war list of Nazis to escape to Argentina, that doesn't count. But the pre-war Nazi rally that was held in America by the then afterwards and since banned German-American Bund, and they were banned for collaboration with the Nazis for being, you know, Nazis. Not to
True.
talk about even the Silver Legion or the other organizations. We're counting that for post-war? I don't know.
All about it. I don't deny it. I don't deny it. I don't deny
Argentina
it.
is a Nazi haven because
No, I didn't
the
say
Nazis
nobody-
agitated among German immigrants in the 1930s. That's a very different claim to what
Oh
we were
my
talking about
God.
before, which
Dude,
was
they held Nazi rallies in Argentina.
Nazis
They
fleeing to
held
Argentina
just like here in the U.S. They held Nazi rallies
do you know
in
who-
Argentina.
Yeah, there was a Nazi rally in Argentina held at the
Oh
Jockey
my
Club as
God.
well. There's the equivalent of Madison Square Garden in Buenos Aires. Do you know who supported that? Do you know
Go
who
ahead,
attended
tell me.
that?
Sure, go
The
ahead.
same oligarchs who the U.S. then supported
Dude,
who then they then
yeah.
supported and smeared Peron
Oh
with a
my
Nazi
God.
label. Isn't that
Hit and miss.
Okay, sure. Why do you keep acting like I'm going to defend the United States? This is terrible,
Because
dude.
the entire
why
the
don't
entire
you?
reason
Why
that I
don't
want
you
to have
also?
this conversation.
But why can't you just say like why? Like that's the whole conversation.
This is
really
so
weird to me
weak.
because and this was the same thing I was experiencing with Argentinian people too, like sending me like video like images of like 9/11 and all sorts of American neo-Nazis and stuff. Hell
9/11
yeah,
was
man!
really good.
The United States.
Did you hear that from BadEmpanada, by the way? 9/11 was really good. He was recently talking about on Twitter and other things. I vaguely remember this conversation.
BadEmpanada's ideal socialist utopia is how big its political and sexual incarceration is. Oh my God. Oh.
But his view of 9/11 is that it attacked the center of American imperialism, its economic center. Therefore, you know, maybe there is some moral justification to the terror attack. And now you can hear him saying it is very good. BadEmpanada is perfectly fine with these types of events as long as it's against America. From everything that I've taken from BadEmpanada, just about any action taken against the United States is a good action.
True.
Terrorism, it's okay. Wars of conquest, it's okay. Anything done against the United States is good because it is the center of global capitalism and imperialism. So no level of moral depravity, even killing innocent people in these buildings, which he says are not innocent because they uphold
Yeah.
the economic structures of the center of imperialism.
Nobody's
it was morally justified,
innocent.
morally okay for this to happen. I mean, you could use this justification then to basically kill anyone.
True.
Where
You
its
could.
countries involved in any type of bad actions. You could use this to kill like janitors in the United States because those janitors pay taxes, which then go into the American military, which are then used to do
True.
drone strikes in
Kill
the
the
world.
janitors.
I could use this if I wanted to justify terrorism in like schools in Russia, saying the people who are educated in that school system shall then maybe go into the weapons manufacturing society in that country, that they have teachers there who are indoctrinating their students, and so we need to attack. You could use this to
Thank you,
justify
thank
any
you.
number of atrocious, immoral actions. But
Thank
it's
you, thank
BadEmpanada. He does not have a lot of strong moral axioms that hold him on the straight and narrow against the most basic of moral depravity.
True.
Is horrible, dude. They are the number one importer exporter of white supremacy and neo-Nazism. I'm just saying it's super weird to me.
because
It's super weird to me that when I just simply point out historical fact that Nazis were indeed all over the world, including South
Well,
America, the
that's
only
the thing.
people.
The reason why
And
people
see,
get
that's where I
angry
get
at that
weird.
is
That's why I
because
get
there's
weird
a
about it. That's
specific stereotype. You know, people. There's no.
if I
There's no
plenty-
specific
Not all
stereotype
janitors.
about, like,
Maybe
the
we'll
couple
spur
thousand
some.
Nazis who went to Australia.
Maybe we
There's no
will
specific
spur some.
stereotype about the hundreds of Nazis who went to New Zealand. There's no specific stereotype about the thousands upon thousands of Nazi collaborators in
Dude,
France. The stereotype
all
is
those-
Argentina.
all those
So
articles.
that's why.
all
That's
the
why when people
articles-
see you posting
all
that,
the
they get
articles
angry.
say all the articles you can find online all say South America, South America. Even the various different Jewish groups that I've
precisely
read
the
that have
point.
all from
That's
South
precisely the point.
because
There
they're
is this
specifically talking about.
specific focus.
No, it's not a focus. Yeah, there's a focus on South American Nazis when they're talking about South America. That's it, buddy.
You aren't talking about South America though.
We were
And
talking
also,
about
They were talking about whether somebody
Oh,
of South
God.
American descent could be Nazi. And so that's why he was talking about South American Nazis. Maybe if the dude was Australian, then Matt Bender would be talking about Australian Nazis. Maybe
True.
if the dude was I don't know, fucking Japanese, then maybe he would be talking about like
My
fascism
God.
in Japan. Maybe he'd be talking about any of these other topics. But it was because people were trying to say Mexicans can't be Nazis, which is what we've been seeing on Twitter, it's what we've been seeing on Facebook. This idea that this is impossible, it must be a psyop. There's no such thing as a brown racist. What are you talking? Which is silly when you think about it, because I've always heard that, oh, what you think it's only white people that can be racist? That's silly. Now we're like, okay, here is a racist brown person, and all of a sudden, no, that's impossible. But that's what he was trying to refer to. That yes, people from South America can be Nazis. They can be fascists. That's the only point he wanted to get across. And now we're talking about Perón. Now we're talking about all these other things completely unrelated to what Matt Bender's original point was. Because again, Matt Bender is only being used as a catalyst to talk about something else.
Latino and Hispanic.
I'm trying to explain to you why those people got angry at you.
I don't-
Because
I mean,
there is this
to me, I've
massive
learned.
stereotype
Go
that
ahead.
isn't that of Argentina being like a singular special Nazi haven, and you're not going to tell me that you've never heard of this before. There's no fucking way. Have you ever watched the History Channel? It's impossible. They run reruns of that shit every fucking day.
I actually don't
it's a
watch the
specific
History Channel.
stereotype. We had a terrible childhood, but there is a specific stereotype emanating from the USA, which originates in the wartime US with the ambassador to Argentina creating this idea of like Argentina planning to harbor the Fourth Reich and create like the resurgent Nazi empire post-war. And from that,
Oh, God.
this stereotype, which eventually led to stuff like the Evita musical and stuff like that, spread throughout the consciousness of Americans, and it created this idea of Argentina as this singular sort of Nazi haven. So when I and many others...
If this is a normal conversation, can I tell you exactly how this would have gone? By the way, Rhizome, thank you so much for the raid. I appreciate it. Man created beer. I don't know what type of memes you guys are doing, but I appreciate the raid. If this
We should
if
get
this
more
was a normal
raids.
conversation,
Should
right,
get more raids,
between,
right?
Matt
Tell more
Bender
people
and
to raid me.
BadEmpanada, this is how it would have gone.
How
Hey,
would it-
Matt Bender, yeah? I saw you link this article which talked about Argentinian Nazis. You don't think that the Argentine people, Argentinian, you
Argentinians.
don't believe
Argentinians.
this wacky little country in South America
Argentinians.
was particularly special when it comes to accepting Nazis. And then he'd be like, not particularly. I mean, Perón, maybe if he knows a little bit about Perón. I mean, Perón was bad on this, and this. And, he accepted Nazis and, he said this about the Nuremberg trials, pretty yikesy. But at the end of the day, all these other countries took Nazis too. And in fact, that is what Matt Bender said in response. At that point, the conversation should have been over. Because then he would have been like, okay, then all this stuff I prepared for, this conversation about the history of this image of Argentina, of all this stuff, it's all
Argentina.
useless. And then the conversation's over.
True.
But the content gods are the content gods. And if there's anything that you can say about
Content
BadEmpanada is
gods.
is incredibly stubborn, no matter how many times he's proven wrong. And so he just keeps
True.
on trucking. He just keeps on going until he can find something vaguely related to this topic that he can argue with Matt Bender over.
saw you posting that,
Love it.
right? That's what we think of.
Okay. All right. I mean,
So that's why Argentines get angry at you, because for one, it is true, obviously, that there were Nazis in Argentina. It's true that there were Nazis in many countries, but it's specifically because it's literally a fucking History Channel article. Come on, it's referring to the stereotype using
it's
like
not a fucking
insane-
stereotype if it happened,
insane-
man. I mean, this is so
no,
ridiculous.
there
This
were
is so
not. There were not.
ridiculous.
Hitler did not come to Argentina. In
No,
a
I never said Hitler. See, you're now trying to put words in
Exactly.
my mouth.
That's
Hitler
the
never-
stereotype, though. The
It's not.
stereotype is
Everyone
like
knows
it
that's
takes
ridiculous.
it takes a grain of truth and exaggerates it to an absurd degree in
But
order
the-
to.
Maybe he thinks, maybe he's like the conspiracy. I know there's a conspiracy that Hitler fled and he didn't
God.
die in Berlin, and that he fled to
know.
Argentina. I never put any weight into it. Is he talking about that?
Why
Is he
would
talking about
anyone
Hitler
put
going
any
to,
weight
like,
to it? Doesn't
Argentina
matter.
at
It
a
wouldn't
youth party? I
matter.
guess you can blame the History Channel for giving that conspiracy any weight.
At this point, it doesn't
any
even matter.
impact. But I don't think I think that less has to do with the American government, which has discredited the idea since like the 1950s. But I think that more has to
Okay.
do with the money grubbing
Oh,
nature of
God.
the History Channel, which has given up the idea of actually talking about history and more just
That
like
is
talking about
sad.
conspiracy theory and aliens.
That is
But
sad.
No. But you are
The whole
using the
History
absurdity
Channel
of
thing.
Hitler escaping Germany right now. But that's not what you brought up before.
I
Before-
brought
Dylan, it's called Argentina. Yeah, Argentina, whatever. Okay.
Argentina.
Look, okay, there's a lot of countries in the world. You can't expect me to know the names of all of them, even when talking about them.
True.
said
I
before
brought that
you-
up
I
as
guess.
an example of how the stereotype operates. Like the reason why there's this idea of Hitler escaping to Argentina, right, rather than, for example, Hitler escaping to the US, which at least numerically, like by percentage, would make more sense. The reason why there's that idea of like Hitler escaping to Argentina and all of that is because of that stereotype created
All right,
and
but you were
spread
now
by the Americans.
you were now trying to conflate a wild conspiracy theory with actual true facts.
I'm
that-
We actually compare per capita who took more Nazis. Was it Argentina or was it the United States? Per capita, because if you were to do the number for number, we're going to beat them out, obviously, right? We're a bigger country, took much more powerful country, much more influential country. We have a lot more motivators probably for somebody wanting to come to America and Argentina. But if you were to sit them down and you were to do a per capita comparison, does anybody know what would be bigger? I don't know. It could be either way. I'm just genuinely asking. I'm genuinely curious.
I'm just asking
not explaining
questions.
anything. I'm using that
Nazis
as an
went to-
example.
Okay, I
of-
don't listen.
of
Listen, dude.
This stereotype existing.
So we said 190 convicted Nazi war criminals. These are people who, these are war criminals. We know they're war criminals. I know that we took a lot of Nazi scientists after the war. How many of them were war criminals, and how many of the ones we took in? Because I'm sure we definitely took in Nazis after the war, and I'm sure some of them were war criminals. But what percentage were war criminals, and what percentage were, Nazis, which holder of a horrific ideology, but maybe they weren't convicted of war crimes? If that's the standard we're holding the Argentine nation state to, I'm doing everything I can. I'm very tired. It's like 5 a.m. where I'm at right now.
Wow.
If that's the standard we're
Dylan
holding
always
Argentina to,
streams at
why
my
can't it be the
hours.
standard we hold the
We're
United
in the
States to? That's the
same
only- That's the only
zone.
point I'm making. Soviets also nabbed Nazi scientists. Yeah, I know. Everybody nabbed Nazi scientists after the Second
my
World
God.
War.
Basically,
But if it's a historical fact that Nazis did indeed escape Germany, and even before that left Germany or wherever they were, Croatia, wherever you said most of them came from, Nazis in Europe came over to South America, and
Somebody in chat is saying 1,500 Nazis came to America as 10,000 came to Argentina. Well, okay. When you're saying Nazis, do you mean German immigrants after World War II? Like literally anybody who was German who left Germany after seeing the ruins of that country and decided, I'm getting out of here. Because I wouldn't say that's fair to say they're all Nazis, right? And also,
knows?
the conversation has seemed to be about Nazi war criminals, right? It was that 1,500 like American, like we know these are Nazi war criminals. Those people who were members of
Hello,
Nazi
Charlie.
Party. Those are just like German citizens.
Hello.
Okay, this is something that we would probably have to revisit.
Watching
another
our
day.
best debate. Best debate.
It's a hard G like in
brain.
GIF. Argentina? No. I don't think
Argentina.
it's a G and a Z.
Argentina.
Argentina, right? Argentina.
Not
Ar-
Argentina.
Argentine,
Argentina.
Right? Or is it Argentina? It's not Argentina. You're breaking my mind.
Argentina. Not Tina. Argentina, right? Isn't that how you read it? Argentina?
More. You're making me more wrong.
And we are talking in the context.
Argentina. Thank you. But that's not GIF. Argentina.
Argentina.
There's more like a J, not like whatever.
But not Tina.
This discourse that was going on.
I'm surprised
of
Dylan
whether
didn't know how
Latino
to
and
read it.
Hispanic people can be Nazis and white supremacists, then I think it's very relevant to bring up just a basic.
What do you mean interesting seeing her here? Socialix. Charlie is the official historian of the pond. Of course she's here. Of
The
course.
fact that, I mean, yeah, there's a history of
course.
Nazis and white supremacy in Argentina, in Chile, in Brazil, in Uruguay, in Paraguay, in you name it. It's all over the place. And that's all that this was. And if a bunch of Argentinian people got upset about it, either they misunderstood me, which that sucks, or I saw a lot of right-wing Argentinian people also going at me. They're trying to deny their history.
They wouldn't
which to
go
me is
at
a
you.
problem.
They love that. They love that. They love that. They say that Perón did it. Every 2 weeks they print a new article about that. They absolutely love it.
Well, there was a few people who were denying it who definitely were right-wingers, sharing all sorts of...
His worst
right-wing memes,
mispronunciation
and they were
than
telling me
Vosh.
That never happened.
Gosh.
Again, this is a very small...
No, the right disagrees with me. No, the right wing disagree with
Oh,
me.
God.
I hate the right wingers more. No, I hate the right wingers more. Sorry, man. Internet debates on the left, huh?
internet portion of the community. But I mean, in the same sense,
Isn't
I heard
Dylan
from
on the
people
left?
from Mexico, people from Chile, people from Bolivia, people from Peru, all bring to me their experience and them saying, yeah, there's white supremacy
Isn't
and
Dylan
neo-Nazis
left-wing?
here, 100%, and then also bring up how weird they thought it was that the only people who had a problem with it was Argentinians, who they say they experience racism from all the time in their home countries.
So you think it's weird that Argentines have a problem with you spreading this?
No, I
what
think
just
it's.
said. This,
I think.
this,
I,
this,
I think.
It's funnier that Dylan forgot how to say Argentina halfway through the react. Look, it's tired, okay? It's what time is it right now here in Ukraine? It is
Wimp.
6 a.m. It is 6 a.m. here in
Wimp.
Ukraine, okay?
Okay,
I
wimp.
feel like I get a pass. I should get a pass.
You don't get a pass. I stream at these hours. I don't get a pass. I don't give myself a pass. I give you amazing content no matter what the hour. I can stream for 12 hours, 30 hours, 50 hours. I always give you premium content, okay? Tina. Yeah, like Tina, Argentina. So you can throw me up. Don't know.
Of Argentina as like
I
this
think-
special Nazi haven. That's
I
what people are angry about. It's not this
Kinda
idea
right,
that
I
Nazis went
see.
to Argentina at all. Obviously they did. It's this idea that Argentina is this special Nazi haven.
But I never called it a special Nazi haven. I posted literally a headline that said South America was a Nazi haven. Wasn't
Okay.
even a special Nazi haven. Wasn't even the
It's
Nazi
a
haven.
History Channel article.
Yeah,
I
you just
mean,
said it
you
was
probably
great.
didn't
You
read
loved
the
watching.
article,
You
but-
said you loved watching History Channel. That's why I didn't share the article, dude. I just posted
Yeah, when I
the
was
screenshot of the.
11 years old, I thought
Well,
it
you
was
just said
fucking
how
awesome.
great it
I
was.
love
I'm the one who
ancient
told you. I'm the one who told you I didn't watch it at all, and I don't know what to tell you, man. You told me how great it was just now.
Oh, God.
I don't know what else to tell you. This is sort of like a silly conversation because
True,
I
it
agree with you
is.
with everything you're going to say about America and how.
It's not. I'm not complaining about America. I'm not saying America is bad here. I'm not just saying that. I'm saying that
I
you
see.
could make that point for one in a way that makes.
But by the way, I have a hard time believing that the person who is fine justifying 9/11.
Okay, let's watch a cutscene and then I'm gonna go to the toilet real quick. It is.
If only these worthless humans could fight as well as they die.
Oh my gosh, that's brutal. Oh, Dylan's been back in Ukraine for a long time now.
You are wakened from your night's sleep by a runner from the war chief. Blackhand's daughter Griselda has run off with the outlaw Turak's band of ogres. Our wolf riders have tracked them to the dungeons hidden beneath the dead mines. Find Turak's band of rebellious pigs and kill them all, including Griselda. Griselda. She must not disobey the commands of her father, ever again.
Jesus. Unlucky, Griselda. Unlucky. Ah. He is but might be considered moderately left. I don't know. Depends on how you purity test. Okay. I'm gonna go to the toilet real quick. I'll be right back. I do know that I like Dylan, so... Okay. I'm ready. I'm ready to rumble. It's 2 a.m. And as you can see, I'm still full of
Doesn't
energy.
have some part of him that's just like, of course, I just want to hate on America. But yes, this is another outlet for me to hate on America and just be angry at the Americans. I highly doubt it.
A lot more sense. And for two, without referring to a myth that is constantly used to legitimize imperialism against Argentina.
How do you bring up
I think
neo-Nazi?
challenging it
How
is
do you
better.
bring up Nazis in South America without you claiming it's going to be some sort of imperialism? I mean,
Why
how do you,
bring up Nazis in South America?
I
in that
just
context at all?
told you, dude, because the context was talking about they were bringing up how there is a rise in in white supremacy and Nazism within Latino and Hispanic communities, and people were denying that could be possible. So I simply
Right.
showed some historical context in terms of how South American countries, all the way back in the 1940s and before that even, but let's stick with post World War II, were welcoming Nazis from Germany and elsewhere in Europe to come to their countries and find a safe haven, just like it was also happening elsewhere.
Okay, so Mexico is in North America.
Right, but we were.
Apart from that, the explanation.
Are you
for-
saying? Are
the
you going to argue that
explanation-
Mexican people wouldn't consider them part of the broader Latino or Hispanic
You said
community?
South America. I don't think most people consider themselves part of a Latino or Hispanic community in Latin America, no. But
He won a linguistic win. BadEmpanada has
Nice.
smitten the
Nice.
fantastic Matt Bender. It's over.
True.
Over. Linguistic win.
apart from that,
True.
Win by technicality. The best type of victory.
True.
apart from that, if you want to
Semantic
explain
win.
Latino,
My favorite.
Nazi, specifically brown skin
My
Latino,
favorite.
Half
in the
my
US.
family.
There
Half my
are
family.
much better ways to do that. For example, you can refer to the fact that the reason why these people exist now is because
All right,
they're all
now you're
radicalized
now,
on the
now-
internet,
well,
where
now,
no one
but this
sees
is-
them and they don't
but-
see each other.
But now you're like tone policing. Now you're going, oh no, you didn't say things exactly how I wanted you to
absolutely
say.
am tone policing you because
that's
you're
so
spreading
weird.
a damaging myth used to legitimize
damaging myth.
imperialism. You literally,
It's damaging to mention the fact that there were Nazis in Argentina.
Oh, damn.
Do you talk about?
if you talk in English,
He didn't even mention Argentina. That's the funniest part. This is all anger about a country. He didn't even mention it in the original.
Amazing
only
debate.
for like some fucking center-left Biden-esque, like fucking
Oh,
lesser evil.
I don't tell
Peronist
anybody to vote
candidate.
for. I don't tell anybody to vote for anybody.
It's just an example. Okay, I'm not accusing
So
you.
here's an example.
Let's start another conversation.
Oh my
with
God.
Matthew Bender over beliefs
He's the
that
only way
then
he
does
can
not
win.
hold in things he has not said.
I'm trying to give you an example of how this narrative is used to legitimize essentially imperialism against Argentina. You mentioned like, you vote for like the lesser evil in Argentina, which is pretty much always the Peronist, and you get called a Nazi by Americans. And
I've never.
the reason
That must be
why that
really
happens is because of
specific because most
stereotype.
Americans have no idea, dude. I mean, you could say the same about people who vote for Democrats when there's a history of the KKK and literal former Ku Klux Klan Grand Wizards being Democrats or whatever. I mean, you could say the same thing here.
The only person who does that is fucking Dinesh D'Souza, because obviously we're taught, there was no like.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at, buddy.
Democrat-
Yeah, and he has movies playing in movie theaters. When I was a little bit younger, I went to one of those movie theaters.
When I was
it was
a
a
little
movie he made
kid.
about Hillary Clinton. It was so bad.
Oh,
it was
God.
so awful. The whole premise of the movie was like, God damn, the Democrats are really the real racists, and that's why we should vote for Donald Trump. It was
Oh,
a really bad
God.
movie. But he's not the only person who sees this. You see these narratives all the time online. Democrats are the real racists. Do you know the true history of the KKK? You'll see people on the side of the road doing like these
Yeah.
talks with people like, who
I
do you think
remember.
started the KKK? And then they'll put the mic in somebody's face and be like, I
remember.
don't know. Like, guess the Republicans? And be like, wrong, it was the Democrats. And they'll be like, wow, I didn't know that. And there's a YouTube video with 2 million views. Like, yeah, it's a narrative you see in online politics in the West a lot. Not in the West, in the United States.
Well, not just online,
That's
as it
what I'm
seems.
getting at.
In-
I'm
in
talking about
Argentina.
how if you
If
can't
you've
just-
seen billboards across the road, then it's not online anymore. It's not just purely online anymore.
just like come to the historical fact that yeah, we could say that there were Nazis
talking about
in South
base
America or
historical facts here.
Argentina. But we are though, because that's what you have a problem with. You're saying I shouldn't bring it up.
Problem
because
isn't with
it's
the historical
imperialism.
facts. It's one thing to talk about this, honestly or whatever within the context. It's another to just randomly bring up this myth to
Myth.
get a simple little gotcha on some right-wing account on Twitter.
No,
Like
but
the
I think-
entire reason why people get pissed off at you is because
Wait.
they're sick of seeing.
Well, the
this,
only
like,
people.
So is it true or is it a myth? A myth is something that's totally not true. What do you mean a myth? My grandma was in the KK and he would probably fight someone if they called him a damn.
this sort of stereotype being used against them.
The only people who got pissed at me.
So
were
is it a myth or is it a stereotype? I didn't know that BadEmpanada did not know what myth means, what stereotype means, and what the difference between those two things are. If it's a myth, then it's absolutely not true. But if it's true, then it cannot be a myth. Okay, we can watch it later, Zoshalex.
Argentinians, and that's a huge
Yeah.
deal to me. When I
Why
hear
wouldn't
the
they
rest,
get pissed at you?
when I hear the rest of
It's a huge tell to you.
I
Why
mean,
wouldn't they get pissed at you?
why didn't any
is
other
it a
why
huge
didn't why didn't any of the other
I like how every question BadEmpanada ever asks is always it's just rhetorical. It's never an actual question. Because
True.
you can tell because he'll ask a question, then he'll ask another question, then another question as you try to answer his first question. He's
Oh
getting
my
a third or
God.
fourth question out. It's never an actual question. It's
Yeah.
always like, why are you such a racist?
Oh god. Oh god.
Okay, sorry, my mic went out. It's never a question asked in earnest, man.
people in South American countries? Because again, the article said South America. Why did no
Because
one else
there's
get angry
there's
about
not any sort of cultural stereotype that this is what they are.
it? In Brazil? There's no
like,
cultural. There's no cultural
there is
stereotype about
absolutely
Brazil.
there is absolutely no stereotype among Americans, among foreigners, that Brazil is a special Nazi haven. You're not going to tell me where's the musical about Brazil? Where's
Oh
the
my God, you're so
where's
obsessed
US
with this
state
musical,
hospital?
dude. You're obsessed
Where's
with the
the
musical,
US
man.
Yeah, it's an incredibly fucking well.
Can we start a musical about Nazis in Brazil?
I'll
what
I'll
would the
make
openings-
it.
what
I'll
would
make
songs be?
the.
You guys got any song ideas?
I will make the musical
Any song?
myself.
I mean, like, I think we should open
I do
with,
like
On
singing.
the
I
Road
do like
again
songs.
with Willie Nelson as they go through the rat tunnels and they're fleeing Berlin. We have to open on Berlin Falling, right? We have to open on Berlin Falling.
I do like songs.
We open with Berlin Falling, and then we transition into Willie Nelson after we start with like an epic battle scene. It's on the road again as they go through the rat lines until they get to Brazil, and then there has to be like a thematic change, and they're probably going to be playing like a lot of Brazilian music, which I don't know, like Hitler in Springtime in Germany. Yeah,
Oh,
that
God.
could work. I think it could be a vibe like that.
A vibe.
Well-known musical that had a massive cultural effect. It's basically, if Americans know about Argentina,
the
half the
fact
time it's
that-
because of the fucking musical.
The fact that
Half the
a
time it's from the
major,
New York Times articles about.
the
Like,
fact
you're
that
essentially trying to discount something that is so well known that there's like an entire academic literature about it, like American
Dude.
cultural perceptions of Argentina.
dude, the fact that there is such a major discourse going on in this country about how people of Hispanic or Latino origin could not be white supremacists or Nazis should tell you that in fact that there's not such, at least in modern day American culture, not such a big stereotype. When did that Evita musical come out? No one even talks about
Talking
it
about
anymore.
Argentina here, not about
But
American culture and American
you are
Nazis.
talking about Argentina again. I
Oh
never
yeah,
said
X-Men Origins. That's
Argentina.
another great one.
Oh, God.
X-Men Origins. Like I believe the opening scene of that movie is like a mutant Nazi hunter in Argentina in Villa Gesell, which is a beach.
Didn't the IDF send this is a very famous story? It wasn't the IDF? I think it was the Mossad sent Nazi hunters into Argentina to capture Adolf Eichmann, who they then deported back to Israel to then sentence to death for his crimes during the Holocaust. I mean, maybe it would be a crazy opening for the X-Men movie if it didn't literally happen.
True.
Resort town, but for some reason it's in the Andes.
Well, yeah,
So
because,
it is a very well-known cultural stereotype about Argentina in the U.S., and it's very damaging. It's employed fairly often by the American media to like drum up hatred of the Argentine center left.
But that's also another historical fact that there were indeed Nazi hunters specifically in countries like Brazil and Argentina, because that's where Nazis were. I mean,
you seem to like just be arguing that the stereotype is correct. Is that like true?
What he just said is
oh my god,
true, that there were Nazi hunters in Argentina. What's wrong of setting the setting in Argentina, where one of the most notorious Nazis,
X-Men, X-Men Origins,
which is much more recent memory than the 1940s, when a lot of the rat lines collapsed, and where some of the people were caught during the failed evacuations. When Adolf Eichmann, one of the most famous Nazis that were still
maybe Germans should start. Maybe Germans should start speaking out about the stereotype of Nazis in Germany, about the myth of Nazis in Germany. My dude, you're discussing history, not Marvel. Why not both?
Alive at the time was captured.
Why not both?
So why would that not be an okay scene for X-Men to open with?
Why
How
not
are they
both?
playing against the Latin American left by opening with that scene in X-Men Origins?
I don't even know if I've ever seen X-Men Origins.
When I mention the stereotype, you keep repeating, but it's true, but it's true, but it's true. But the problem isn't that.
You're trying to call historical. You're trying to call historical fact a stereotype, dude. It's one thing to say. It's one thing to say the United States of America weaponized these facts and used it as propaganda to assert that something more was going on.
Facts. Like, it's one thing to say Nazis went to Argentina, Nazis went to Brazil, Nazis went to...
That's all I said, exactly.
It's another thing to say Nazis went to Argentina. Not all the Nazis went to Argentina. The Nazis tried to make the Fourth Reich in Argentina. Argentina is this special secret, super special Nazi haven.
Who in this conversation said that? Because it wasn't me. Who in this conversation
issue
said
that I had with your tweet was that you were essentially spreading this myth of South America as this singular Nazi haven, specifically.
He didn't. That was not the. Okay, I'm done listening to this. This is ridiculous. Do you guys want to listen to any more of this? Because it's just the same.
We're not done, Dylan. We're not done until it's done.
Point out the fact that South Americans,
don't be a wimp.
People of Latin and Hispanic descent, they can be Nazis.
Don't wimp out, Dylan.
Brown. And somebody being from
content is content.
Somebody being of south of the border of the United States does not stop them from being a fascist. And now it's about Perón. Now it's about the Blue Book. Now it's about the exact percentage of Nazis in Argentina versus the United States. And now it's about a bunch of details that Matt Binder was not questioning, was not bringing up to debate, when his point was about, South Americans can be Nazis, which BadEmpanada doesn't even deny. He has said this at the start, that this was just a mechanism for him to talk about a separate issue. That 100% is true. You can tell from the way he's engaging in this conversation that there's nothing that Matt Binder could say here that would please him, that would make him think, okay, you know what, you're right.
I mean, he has to make that video.
I think that I shouldn't have put it that way. Or, you know what, I don't think you're making excuses for imperialism in Argentina. I think you simply just wanted to say that people in South America can be Nazi. Nope, it can't be that. Because you can't have a normal conversation with anyone. But again, somebody who justifies 9/11 is not going to be able to have a normal conversation with anyone. It's not. Anyway, that's enough of that.
Wait, so what are you...
Wait, it's almost over, Dylan. Should press through it? Okay. Well, we'll press through it. We'll try to press through it a little bit more. But I will tap out if it gets too bad.
Oh, gosh. Don't be a wimp.
Nazi, whether you meant to or not. And that...
Don't be a wimp.
That myth is the thing that's not true. We're not simply arguing that no Nazis came to Argentina. We're talking about this specific myth of Argentina as the Nazi haven. That is the thing
never
that's
said
damaging.
that. I never said
That is the thing
though.
that people get angry at. That is why
Well, then
you
that's
had
then that's
people
on
screaming
then
at
that's
you in Spanish.
then that's on them, then, man. That's on them because they need to learn
True.
reading comprehension and see what I read.
I guess they just need to learn to have supposed leftists just spreading imperialist ideas about their country.
Oh, those people had no idea who I was. Please, I mean the idea that again, let's bring up the fact that we all talk about Ukrainian neo-Nazis, right? Because they exist. It's a fact they exist. Yet for some reason, you don't also think that being that there is a country literally right now doing imperialism on them and using the propaganda that there are Nazis in Ukraine as their reason for doing imperialism.
While the Russians are also arming their own neo-Nazi militias like Rusich and are perfectly willing to work with neo-Nazis both in the international community, in Russia, and even in Ukraine, in order to win the war, in order to advance the geopolitical
What a
goals.
shocker.
It's a very cynical mode of attack.
What
on
a
Ukraine.
shocker.
You won't though say, oh, we should back off on bringing up Ukrainian neo-Nazis because Russia's weaponizing that fact to propagandize and use it to legitimize what they're doing to innocent people in Ukraine. You don't.
Can I just say, I think there is something to be said about having an honest conversation about the far right in Ukraine. I'm working on a project right now that hopefully can maybe have more of that honest conversation. But there is another thing between bringing it up and bringing it up maliciously to say there are Nazis in Ukraine, therefore the Russians should win. Because when you bring it up in that way, what you're doing is you're leaving out a ton of context, which I could see where the BadEmpanada position comes through here, where it could be like, hey, you should bring up...
Just as I can bring up the far right in Poland when discussing Ukrainian-Polish relations, right?
The context that the Russians are also arming their own neo-Nazi militias. We should bring up the context that Nazis have very little political control in Ukraine. Actually, they have basically none, with non-discrimination protections being put in place for LGBTQ plus people. Them being led by a Jew whose family was killed in the Holocaust. I mean, them celebrating the victory against Nazism. Like, it'd be disingenuous.
Ukraine is more pro-LGBT than Poland. I'm going for a health and safety TSCS course in order to get a green card. Never worked before, and since I'm really behind, may as well start out as a laborer. True.
Very nice. Ukraine as a Nazi state, just like it would be disingenuous to paint modern modern Argentina as a Nazi state. It would be very disingenuous and wrong to do that. But that's not even the thing that Matt Bender said. But the equivalent that Matt Bender is bringing forward here is a lot more charitable to BadEmpanada than his actual position was, because he never even brought up Argentina in the original post. He never talked about Peron. He never talked about Adolf Eichmann. He never talked about the Ustase being evacuated. He never talked about any of this. He never talked about the stereotype. He just said that there can be Nazis in South Africa. Not in South Africa, in South America. That they do exist. This would be like if someone asked me, can there be Nazis in Eastern Europe? Yes. Yes, there can.
Yes.
Do that though, right? You would never do that. I wouldn't do that either because I don't think... That. Really, you've done that before. Then you've done that before. You've done that before. Yeah. So you don't talk about
I don't think that there being neo-Nazis in Ukraine means that the country should be invaded. Yes.
Oh, good. Exactly. You shouldn't think
it's also not an equivalent scenario, because what is the context of bringing this up exactly? It's just like a random American bringing up a decades-old stereotype.
Here's the funny thing, dude. You're talking to probably the only leftist streamer that has a show dedicated to talking about white supremacy, neo-Nazis, online far-right reactionary.
There's no other leftist content creators that talk about Nazis. Matt Bender has locked that market down.
True.
He's locked down the Nazi talk market on the left. Nobody else does it. I have to bully him a little bit.
Because I know you don't know who I am. I'm a nobody.
Sounds like Bellingcat.
What?
Sounds like Bellingcat.
Okay, well, I'm not Bellingcat. Bellingcat is not a left. They wouldn't consider themselves to be a leftist news organization. That's very clever, though, because I know that there's a well-intentioned bad rap on Bellingcat, because they do some sketchy stuff. But
what sketchy stuff does Bellingcat do? I'm actually interested. I want to hear what Matt Bender's sketchy stuff about Bellingcat is.
Tie me to them for your audience is very clever. I enjoy that. Nice move there. But
It's always the NED funding. The NED funding is always what's brought up, from what I know.
Been covering neo-Nazis, white supremacists since I started a show back in 2018. It was my beat when I started working on the Majority Report back in 2011 and co-hosted a show with Michael Brooks. So you're probably talking to the American leftist who focuses
I am the biggest
on white
Polish
supremacists and
leftist.
neo-Nazis in the United States of America more than
Hello,
any
Palm
other
Dad.
leftist does. And the idea that you don't think it's relevant,
Thank you.
that you constantly bring up. See,
It's a hell of a claim. I mean, he does focus on it. It's just a hell of a claim.
for me, I just want to talk about fucking the fact that neo-Nazis are all over the fucking world. That's it. I want to talk about the fact that you should not be hiding the fact, denying the fact that neo-Nazis exist in your country, that country, this country, because they exist and everyone needs to come to terms with it if they want to defeat it. If you're an anti-fascist, you need to talk about it. So when I'm bringing up Ukraine, my point is, you say when I bring up the fact that Nazis fled to South America, and again, I'm not even talking about Argentina specifically. You keep doing that. But if you want me to say that, fine. When I bring up Nazis in Argentina, you say doing so is giving in to American imperialism because they've used it before for their propaganda. So I'm saying, why isn't it the same thing? Why isn't the same thing? So maybe perhaps you are inadvertently doing that to Ukraine.
BadEmpanada is an American shill in Ukraine. I've heard it here first.
True.
Inadvertently
Very nice.
spreading
My
like
God.
imperialist propaganda from the fucking 1940s against the country that is still weaponized against that country to this very day.
I see.
Yeah. I think you should maybe learn to take being called out on that a little bit better.
No one is talking about Nazis in Argentina anymore. In fact, it's quite clear of that based on the reaction.
You pretty much brought it up.
Yeah, me. Am I
Everyone
the
knows
United
that
States of
History
America,
Channel
dude?
article was-
By the way, he didn't bring it up in Argentina. He brought it up in all of South America. And now it's being made about Argentina, then being extended to the Blue Book,
Yeah.
then being extended to Perón. And a lot of things that Matt Bender
Someone's
never
obsessed.
said or never agreed with is now being snatched out of existence, out of thin air, and pinned to his name.
Little me, man, little me. Who you don't that you just put what was it you put in your headline there? Discount Sam Cedar. Apparently, I speak for all of America when I, in 2023, am the one American who brings up Nazism in South America, because that's not
No,
a
you're
current
not. That's the
discussion here.
problem.
No,
That's the problem.
if that
You're
was
not
the
the only
case, then
one.
why is there literally tons and tons of people? Like, the literal discourse in this country right now is Latinos and Hispanic people cannot be white supremacists and Nazis. That's the basis of this whole conversation, dude. And you're claiming that's not true. The whole reason I even posted that article, that screenshot of that article, you're claiming is not true because everyone in America believes that Nazis and white supremacists are all over Argentina. You make zero sense, man.
I think I make perfect sense. So there's two separate things here. One is, can Latinos, Hispanics, however you use that term in the US, can they be white supremacists?
Yes.
They can.
Absolutely.
Another thing is the way you made that point. By referring to a damaging stereotype that legitimizes imperialism.
Referred to the fact that there are white supremacists and Nazis fled to South America post-World War II, and they existed in South America. Didn't even specifically name Argentina.
Specifically, not specifically.
The land of the Argentinians, okay? Doesn't name it, just says all of South America. Now it's being hyper-focused on one element of South America that the article he screenshot mentioned, and then that's being extended to the Blue Book, which is then extended to Perón, which is then extended to American imperial interests. Therefore, he stereotyped Argentina
Oh my
by
gosh,
just
he's
mentioning the
Griselda.
fact that there were neo-Nazis and Nazis and fascists in South America in his original tweet. A lot of stuff's being attached to his name that he never said.
In my country.
And what is that
That is the
damaging
thing that I was
stereotype?
angry about.
What is that damaging
It's
stereotype?
this idea that Argentina
Okay. We're gonna watch a cutscene now.
The feel of bones crunching beneath your feet.
We've killed Griselda. Griselda is no more. No more Griselda.
On your return from the dungeon, you receive word from advanced scouts that the recently established outpost near the Red Ridge Mountains is under siege. A group of raiders have been dispatched to assist you in taking back the outpost and crushing the human opposition. Your secondary objective is to seek out and completely destroy their encampment, putting an end to this threat for good.
True. Rip Griselda.
Is a specific Nazi haven, and specifically that the Peronist
Specifically
ideology, which isn't really an
specific.
ideology,
Can
but
you show
people
me when
call
I
themselves that
can you show me
nonetheless.
when I said that? Can you show me when I said any of that?
You don't have to say it to legitimize it. It can be
Oh, that's
accidental. It
such
can be
bullshit,
inadvertent.
man. That's such bullshit, man. I mean,
How not?
listen. If you want to have a regular, like, if you wanted to have like a legitimate conversation about that, you would have reached out to me. But instead, you wanted to, pound on your chest and do this whole bravado thing in public because.
If I was to see a post, let's say I see a post by a Ukrainian soldier, and he's like, I like Hitler or some crazy shit online, right? And I quote tweet that and I say, this is really gross and should not be allowed in the Ukrainian armed forces. Now, would it be appropriate for other people to be like, wow, Dylan, are you playing in? I mean, you don't have to even say it, but are you saying that Ukraine's a Nazi state? I'm like, wait, no, I didn't say that. Are you saying that? Well, you're played into it. You're playing into the Russian propaganda. Like, this is
True,
this would be
Dylan. Stop it.
unbelievably unfair. If I was to try to do that to somebody else was to do that to me,
Stop
or
it,
somebody
Dylan.
was to try to do that to Matt Bender.
Stop it. Get help.
I'm not pounding on my chest of doing bravado at all.
I mean,
I'm just sitting here.
what are you talking about? On
kind of in
Twitter,
awe.
dude. On Twitter, dude, you were having this whole big thing about how I was, specifically
I was
talking about
actually
Argentina when I
correcting the
wasn't.
historical facts with lots of your followers who seem to believe that myth was true.
What
And
myth? What's the myth?
Like, they
You
got
are-
really offended when I pointed out.
What
that
is the
US government
myth?
itself estimated that there were 10,000 Nazi war criminals in the U.S. They got really mad at that.
Oh, well, I don't know anyone who did that. I mean, I can't speak for all people who would get, but I certainly know. that there's
My
10,000
problem isn't with
at
you
least-
specifically. My
at
problem
least
is with this
10,000.
What is the
myth in general,
myth?
with this stereotype in general.
Cool,
My
but I
problem
didn't
is
spread,
that I
didn't
don't want
spread that
people.
myth.
I don't
didn't
want
spread
people
that myth.
to inadvertently
Dylan Byrne is
or
an agent
whatever
of Putin?
spread this idea.
Oh, no.
I would prefer that people base these ideas, in facts, bring them up when it's actually relevant, rather than to explain Latino neo-Nazi mass shooter in the U.S.
Ellen, you have my introduction to Amazing Atheist set up. Do I DM you? Sure, that works with me. Perfectly fine with me. I don't know what your method is. Hope you didn't like shove him in the back of a trunk. You're gonna drive him out to me in Ukraine, but yeah, appreciate it. You can DM me on Twitter and on Discord.
You
So wait,
being
do you-
an
do you-
expert on white supremacy.
Wait, what
Email
happened?
me, DylanBirdsTV@gmail.
You
So wait,
being
do you-
an
What
Ukraine,
happened?
but shove him in the back of a trunk. Perfectly fine with me. I don't know. Do I DM you? Sure.
Nazi mass shooter in the U.S.
Ellen, you have my introduction to Amazing Atheist set up. Do I DM you? Sure, that works with me. Perfectly fine with me. I don't know what your method is. Hope you didn't like shove him in the back of a trunk. You're gonna drive him out to me in Ukraine, but yeah, appreciate it. You can DM me on Twitter and on Discord.
You
So wait,
being
do you-
an
do you-
expert on
do you-
white supremacy
Or email me, DylanBirdsTV@gmail.
supremacists in the U.S., I would hope that you could
Dylan bet
explain
no,
how
Dylan
this
good.
came to be without making a reference to South America.
Don't
because I think
say
it's pretty
that.
irrelevant.
But it wasn't specifically about this guy, man. Even in the tweet I'm responding to in that screenshot, it was specifically about the rise of white supremacy within the Latino
whoa, whoa.
Hispanic
Oh my gosh. The
communities.
chair got crazy.
That's simple. That's simple, dude. So people come from South America, Mexico, Central America, all over to the United States, right? That's where they immigrate from, and they come to this country.
Thank you.
Right, so it's not a thing that's there. Certainly, they're learning a lot of it here, without a doubt. This kid specifically, who did this guy, this fucking mass shooter, this white supremacist neo-Nazi shooter, he, without a doubt, based on his specific background, got this shit in the U.S. He did post a lot of photos on his social media channels, though, of Mexican white nationalists in Mexico, like literal white neo-Nazi rallies in the streets of Mexico. But
Well, what do you know?
again, the specific article I was replying to was someone mocking the idea of the headline of the article being that the growing white supremacy in Hispanic and Latino communities. And I quickly looked for an article, saw a headline that did not specifically did not specify any country, because to me it's not a specific country's problem. Again, I told you the first country I think of in modern day would be Brazil. And so I posted a screenshot of that headline. I mean, and anything else is you reading into it. And if you
It's
have a
not
problem
me
with
reading into it, because our actions, are influenced
Oh,
by
gosh.
broader cultural trends, by broader cultural osmosis.
My
We're
God.
not just like, we don't just have these specific
Oh my God.
intentions that we're all using, and you can also do things by accident. You can spread damaging ideas by accident without meaning to do so. Because there are these trends that I'm sure you're well aware of Americans projecting, deflecting onto other countries. For example, religious fanaticism in the US, they say, oh, are we the Taliban now? Stuff like that. Neo-Nazi mass shooter, oh, are we like Argentina now? Stuff like that. So when I see someone...
Well, that's not the point he was making.
True.
And it's not a point you can even... Can we see his original... Does anybody have his original post? If it is even possible that you could read the post like
BadEmpanada
that,
cannot.
like, what are we, like, South Americans? I don't believe Matt Binder would say
He doesn't
something
care.
like
He
that.
doesn't listen. He
And
just
again, not
says
even
his own thing.
Argentinians, just South Americans.
like
Yeah.
referencing South America or Argentina or whatever, and related
Or
to
whatever.
a neo-Nazi mass shooting in the US, what I see in that, as someone who is very familiar with these sorts of stereotypes, with these sorts of deflections, is that. And you might not have intended it, but that's how it comes off.
Okay, I mean, if that's how it came off to you, then I mean that's a problem.
It came
I guess.
off like that to me and lots of other people. Like, I know you mentioned the right-wing Argentines, but I'm sure they weren't all right-wing.
No,
I'm
they
sure
were
there were
not- they
plenty
were
of people
not.
in there
They
who
were
were just
not. No,
fucking sick, who were just fucking
Absolutely
sick
not.
of these Americans, like,
But I mean, this is
pointing
listen.
specifically
This,
to them all the time.
this conversation you're having now with me, though, is way different than the conversation you had on Twitter with me, and the conversation you had just even 10 minutes ago and before that, the rest of the live stream, where you were just trying to claim that just bringing up the fact was some sort of propaganda, imperialism for
Nina, thank you so much for the rated 15.
the United
Oh
States.
damn! I need to
You guys
moderate.
said this was almost over. You guys lied to me. You just got
True, you
so many
lied
keep
to
streaming.
Dylan.
You scum in
Scumbags.
gutter chat. Nina said you're the reason she got banned. I don't look.
Who
I'm
got
trying
banned?
to figure out who this person is in
Who?
my head here. I don't know who they are, but good. It was my CIA plot the whole time. My main job is to cause as much suffering as possible. And I was given an order from up
We've
and
heard it
above,
here.
yeah, even up from my grandpa William Burns, to get them banned. Very sorry.
Who?
I watched the Tan Hall because you gave me the confidence to do it. No, that was a terrible idea. No, you shouldn't have done
Sage
that.
Alexi-
You were in the
who?
same terrible
Who is Sage
boat that I was
Alexis?
in. Yeah, no. You have learned, CNN and Warner Bros will scalp you alive. I thought because people were streaming it on YouTube that I would be okay. So everybody's looking to everyone else.
What are we
okay?
talking about?
Everyone's just looking for how the waves go.
It's not just bringing up the fact, though. It's referring to the stereotype of Argentina as like the special Nazi haven. I know it said South America, but when people think Nazis in South America, we all know what they're thinking. When Americans think it, especially, we all know what they're thinking. I know why they think that.
see.
I think I've explained well enough why they think that.
Then I think
Like, I mean, if you want to just say that you didn't mean it or whatever, okay.
well, no, well,
Sure,
fine,
but you don't
decided.
need to mean it for it to nonetheless,
I mean,
be spread through the message that you sent, through the tweet that you sent.
the weirdest thing to me is, regardless,
God.
you tell me all the things wrong with the United States of America. It's horrible history. You could bring up the genocide of the Native Americans. You could bring up slavery. You could bring up how we treated African Americans, Black Americans in this country after, during the Civil Rights era. You could bring up the Nazis we brought into this country. You will see nothing from me denying it. In fact, I implore more and more people to talk about it.
I'm
Talk
not
about
saying
real
that
American
you believe
history.
that.
Okay, but
I'm not saying that you believe
but
that.
I will say it is very weird, very fucking weird, that bringing up Nazis in Argentina, you don't get a discussion about it. You don't get a
There have been discussions about it, though. There was like 20-year-long government inquiry. That's what the report.
okay, so I guess we can't talk about Nazis. I guess we can't.
Yeah, what are we finding? What are we looking through now?
My guy. Sage made a video about renegade Kat's military video. BadEmpanada sent harassment her way via Twitter. Sage attempts to self-harm. As a result of the harassment, she's okay, but BadEmpanada is fucked for that. Yeah, yeah. He is the worst.
Rento a okay. They
He
challenge you to
is
find
scum-
photos like
he's a
this in
scumbag.
Argentina.
He is a scumbag, no doubt. He doesn't
I
care.
challenge you to find photos like this in Argentina. Oh, oof, that wasn't that difficult. Yeah, you can do this in just about any country. They should have made the test harder. They should have made the test a little bit harder. It was not going to be that difficult.
Yeah.
Talk about Nazis in Argentina or
yeah.
because
Yeah.
if you were born after that
And,
20-year
randomly bringing them up based on damaging cultural stereotype, which primarily exists because of imperialism, which is constantly used to legitimize imperialism.
Here's the original tweet. You don't even have to open a history book. There are history websites now. How South America became a Nazi haven. Find out how and why South America became a safe haven for thousands of former Nazi Party members and SS officers. This doesn't even mention Argentina at all. I thought like he would at least somewhere in his screenshot he would have mentioned Argentina, even if originally his point was about South America. But there's not even a mention of something. I assume in the article, Argentina is brought up.
Argentina. It probably isn't. I
But this is
assume it
all from
probably
this.
isn't.
This is it. This is really it. Well, I mean, I'm not that surprised that Matt Bender is confused here and why this
Yeah.
conversation is even happening.
BadEmpanada has gone after
No,
me
I
as
mean,
well.
I think it's completely fair to bring.
I
up
remind you, BadEmpanada has made a video about me. You know? He has. It's true.
historical context of yes, there is a history of Nazis and neo-Nazis and white supremacists. Peru.
I think there are better ways to do this without inadvertently spreading these sorts of
Myth.
damaging stereotypes. I think, for example, let's go back to the example that I used earlier. I know that you think it's not exactly the same, but I think it's a kind of similar inadvertent, perhaps, spread of a stereotype, like an African-American politician who is corrupt and being like, oh, plenty of African countries are corrupt. You know, I think that would be pretty out of place to explain the actions of like a guy of like African descent in the USA, and it would be like referring back to damaging stereotypes about Africa.
If there was an African American president who was accused of some corruption, I agree it would be racist to bring up Africa. If there was a conversation sparked from that about how Africans cannot be corrupt, then I would without a doubt say, no, we could bring up African countries. And that's exactly the scenario that happened here. There was a Mexican-American shooter that did a horrible act. This dude, without a doubt, was inspired by Nazis and white supremacy here in the United States, and based on his social media feed, probably at the very least was looked up to that same sort of what's going on in Mexico too with neo-Nazis and white supremacists, but mostly without a doubt the United States of America. But there was a conversation that was sparked from that about Latino and Hispanic communities as a whole. And I think you would agree that if there was an equivalent where all of a sudden, after an African-American president was charged with corruption, there were articles about how, oh, African countries, they can't be corrupt. What's going on here? This is bullshit. You would think it would be fair game to then bring up that actually there is a pretty long history of African countries being led by pretty corrupt leaders. Probably some of the most corrupt in the whole world.
My example was a more relevant one, being an African American, and then referring to Africa to explain their actions.
It's not, because that's not what I did. It's like, why do you continue to avoid?
Well, you refer to South America to sort of as an explanation for how this guy can be a Latino white supremacist. I believe there are better ways to make that same point.
Okay,
for example,
then make the point in the better way. Don't critique him for things he never said.
Explaining how a Latino American can actually be a white supremacist rather than just lazily pointing to a cultural signifier that is...
Look, it's a very easy argument to make. If somebody told me Dylan, there's no such thing as a Serbian Nazi. And then I could just say, okay, here's pictures of Serbians being Nazis. That's a very easy argument to make, because it's like, look, right there, Nazi, Serbians can be Nazis. But if I had to sit down here and be like, well, when you look at some certain stringent Nazi ideologies that break off and are consumed by the Serbian extremist community, like, I guess I could make a much
BadEmpanada
more
is not a
better
leftist.
academic
True.
argument, but it's a lot easier to be like, there's a picture of some Serbian Nazis, boom, there's proof that Serbians can be Nazis. Much easier. It's going to probably be more convincing for the layman anyway.
The Nazi Argentina idea.
No, it's not just to point to a lazy cultural signifier, to show that there's a long history of it, that it's not some new trend that all of a sudden, because you know what the conversation would be then. Oh,
I think
everybody's
it's
a
a
white
very
supremacist
different thing,
now.
actually. I think
Everybody's
the
a white supremacist now.
Nazis in South America, they're all white, like blonde haired, blue eyed. It's kind of a very different thing, really. You can't really explain like a brown Mexican descended neo-Nazi by pointing to Argentina or Brazil or
Well,
Bolivia or any
why
of these
can't
other countries.
why can't you describe Argentinians that way?
Like what?
You just said you can't describe Argentinians as like your words, like a brown-skinned, darker.
No, I'm referring to Nazis, like Nazis who came from Germany, right? They were like white people. So
Sure.
it stands to reason that them and their kids would also be white people.
I mean,
No.
they would be certainly.
They could be mixed race.
Could possibly be white, sure, but they could also have darker complexions.
Yeah,
too. I'm a
so
little confused as to-
pointing towards these
It could be mixed
Germans,
race,
like
what?
literal Germans who migrated to South America, as like an explanation for a brown-skinned man or brown-skinned white supremacist in the United States of America.
That's
To me, it doesn't really make sense.
Why doesn't it? If you're trying to say Argentinian
Because there's
people
the clear
with
racial component to. Right, so there's a racial contradiction there in
So
this
you're
guy's
trying to say-
ideology.
are you
He
trying to
thinks
say
he's
that
part
if-
of the white master race and that like Nazis would love him or something?
So are you saying that if if someone in Argentina is a descendant from a Nazi from Germany, like the guy came over from Germany, had a family with someone in Argentina, you're saying that kid, even though he might have lighter skin and lighter complexion, you're saying they wouldn't be Latino as well, even though their mother would be an Argentine native?
I don't know, maybe would he in the US? I don't know. You guys have
I would say-
everything fucked up here.
No,
Dude, come on, can't we
Oh,
please
Lord.
just wrap this up? How much longer is this debate, actually? Dude,
True.
it has to wrap up soon. I'm
That's
sorry.
true, Jess.
This has gotten completely pointless at this point. They've gotten nowhere. They've gotten nowhere in the last, 20 minutes.
What
don't
I
think
would
it's
say
very
is
simple.
the
If you-
fundamental contradiction, because
Ooh,
Latino
that's
is not, it's not a race.
good
The
answer.
fundamental contradiction in that guy's ideology has
My
nothing to
gosh.
do with his descent from Mexico as compared to Argentina. These places are incredibly far from each other. It doesn't really make much sense to really bring it up in the first place, but we're talking about like the racial contradiction here is what those Americans
My
are saying
God.
he can't be a Nazi are referring to, because to them he's this brown guy. You're right. He's excluded from whiteness. He's excluded from white supremacy. To them, I don't think an Argentine like descendant of Nazis would be excluded from that. I don't think.
I
they
think
would be
it's
like, "Oh, you're Latino."
Argentinian,
I
not
think they welcome him with
Argentine.
open arms, and that's the fundamental contradiction they need explained to them. They don't need like lazily pointing to like a cultural signifier.
It's
of
content,
Argentina
okay?
Being the Nazi country.
If you give me a dono, we can do something else.
I mean, I think it's very relevant in terms of everything we just mentioned. I mean, we're just gonna disagree. I guess agree to disagree here.
Disagree to
I mean, I don't
disagree.
know what else to
Disagree to agree.
say. I mean, I don't know what to say, honestly. Is there any other point you want to make? I mean, I guess. Feel free. I'm happy to stay on the stream and listen to whatever else you got to say, but I don't know what else on my end. Go ahead.
No, tell Sam Cedar that he needs to tell AOC to vote no on increasing the State Department budget.
Okay. Sure.
Thank you for relaying that message for me.
I'm sure he has that direct line to
Oh yeah, no problem, no question.
I mean, the weird thing is, it seems like you and I come to, at least from what you're telling me, come to an agreement on everything except the fact that you seem to not like the content.
Yeah, because
I brought up
the
this history.
disagreement isn't with our specific political views in this case. My disagreement with you is how
My
you
gosh.
inadvertently spread this damaging idea that is
Oh.
against the You know, like the
You
not
know
the
what?
left, but like, you know, the
If you've enjoyed this segment, please press like, subscribe, ring the bell. Thank you. The dono has been given. I have to finish this. It's time to move on to a different pasture. Okay, there are better things to watch.